This is Matt's show, and he likes to have all us guests play around and talk and joke. Hey, yeah. This is a Matthew Rappaport show. I'm here on Hangout Conversations.
We're live, Hangout Conversations, live from New York, live from Portland. We're enjoying a little bit of a salad. Yeah, I just grabbed myself a little bit of a salad. And we have a great show. It's Wednesday, and everyone's like, Wednesday, Matt. You do a show on Thursday. Did you forget what day it was? No, I didn't forget what day it was. Actually, we'll be busy tomorrow night. I'm going to drink some coffee, and they're going to pay me for it. For those of you that don't know, I haven't been drinking coffee for 3 weeks. So if I go in there and I drink a little bit of coffee and my throat goes, and I'm like, was that worth $100? I don't know. How are you doing out there? Welcome back. Show number 39. We have a great guest tonight, Mr. Eric Rice, is coming up. And you may have just heard Katie Sevigny sing a beautiful song. If I edit it, if I'm not that lazy, and she made a great song last week about me and the show. So that's hopefully played before or after. Welcome, Plussers and Kiwi and future Surface buyers. And tonight's guest probably will be buying a Surface because he loves his Microsoft. We'll see. But another edition. I'm looking at my notes. I'm cheat sheeting as usual. Last week's episode with all the surprise guests you can handle is up for you to check out for you to enjoy. And latest crazy plustainment show, don't miss it. Hangout Conversations on YouTube. You can check that out. And what's new on Google Plus? Not much. You can update your profile finally. Your status. You can update your profile. You can update your status from your profile, which a lot of us have wanted for a long time. And now you can do something with the cover of your photos. I guess you don't have to delete. It's easier to manage your cover photo. But Vic Condocha was pretty giddy today, and he made a post about not being able to sleep, which to me translates that there's a lot of new features coming our way for the 1-year anniversary, I'm guessing, because last time we got local. And so how many of you are using local? Let me know. That should be interesting. How's your June going? It's almost summer. Longest day of the year today. Pretty cool. New York City Herald 2 is going to be in August. That's coming up. Keep your eye out for that. That information. What else is left? Our guest. Plenty to say about our guest. The man, the blue-haired legend, comes to us all the way from the West Coast near Portland. But he's actually in Washington State. He spent a lot of his time in California. I've known him about a year now, I think somewhat well. But he might argue that it's internet-style knowing. Heh. I find him at Hangouts all the time, and he finds me when I'm not busy flooding the stream with stuff he usually loves to hate on, or sometimes he goes, wow, you actually have something that I actually kind of like, but usually not. And I just shared some of his, Gary Oldman being hilarious, actors against acting athletes, which was pretty funny, so you better watch out, Shaq, check that out. And I've never done this before, but I wanted to do with tonight's guest, with permission from tonight's guest. I'm going to read right from his profile. A product strategist, media communications, research design, cybernetics futurist, a rational early adopter with 2 decades of experience in design and new media, a speaker, guest, a panelist on a variety of topics around emerging technologies, behaviors, and business. Other areas, I just scroll over, other areas of business interest are artificial synthetic intelligence, urban planning, architecture, so he enjoys George Costanza, a sarcastic Gen Xer parent with a deep love of cyberpunk, good hip-hop, urban dystopia, graffiti, automobiles, photography, gaming, geofiction, and chaotic good. He does own a lot of cars. He's known as the Jeep Man. I just added that, or maybe it's Jeep Rice. I don't know. I put that in there. He didn't write that. He's not impressed by his circled by numbers, and he thinks you shouldn't be either voluble and frank. He's one of the few and brave. That was it. He's one of the few and the brave from the show Robot Underpants. He comes to us today with his non-blue hair. He's the only farming guy, minus the farm bill. He is Eric Rice. Welcome to Hangout Conversations, Eric Rice.
Thank you. That was a crazy introduction, and you read my stuff. I don't know what to.
So now I read your stuff. So now hearing it read back to you, I mean, obviously I read it fast. Maybe I didn't get the right inflections, but does it sound? Is that the image you were going for? It's a lame-ass bio in a search engine, right? So what do you do? It's something you can do.
Right? You still have to end up explaining it. I think life would be easier if there was just some straight answer like tax attorney. Oh, right. Okay, and then people can be completely, oh, okay.
Isn't that easy? Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's amazing that
we
in 2012.
It is, and that comes with the territory, though, of doing all this stuff that there's not really any way to describe it.
There's no college major for it. You can't major.
Yeah, or, you know, it's like guru, right? That's just, I can't do that.
Nobody, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's a little pretentious, right?
And 2 decades, that's only because I'm old.
Yeah.
It's only the 90s, man.
Well, if we talk 2 decades, yeah, 1990, 1991, 1992.
Which still feels like yesterday, because you're not that far behind me. And,
no.
The 90s, that was just like the other day.
Yeah, it was, and I remember being, I think when I started using AOL and BBS for the first time, I was probably, I want to say 13 or 14. So does that make you feel young or old? I don't know.
No, not terribly. I was a little bit. So.
Yeah, but I wanted to do something a little different. You know, I was going to mention about the fan. Oh, I didn't get into the fanboy and hater thing. I must have not copied and pasted that. But you talked about not being a fanboy and not being a hater, and I guess I missed all that. But you are. I mean, I think you have some fanboy and hater tendencies. You're not like. I mean, we don't have to get into that just yet. But,
yeah.
I was going to go into Guy Kawasaki interviewed Vic and Doja at South by Southwest, and recently the web, Bradley Harwitz got interviewed, and there were a couple of questions. I wanted to combine some of them, some of the things that they talked about, and just ask you the same questions or something similar. But before I get into that, I actually found some Twitter questions that were asked of, I guess, what's his name? Luis? Luis, I should say. And I don't know if he got them all to Bradley, but since you run all of Google Plus, right? What's the and you can answer any way you want or your opinion, but this was a question from Cal Majane at Cal Majane, because that's or Cal Majaj, CCALMEJA, CCal Majah from London. What's the next move of Google to stay as innovative now? Oh, what's the next move of Google to stay as innovative now that they're since they're bigger? Okay, so this is not worded in English, but now that Google is a bigger and more complex structure, how can they stay innovative? Is what they're asking. Do you have any answers for that?
Well, I mean, I don't work for Google. It's kind of weird fielding Google questions.
I think it's fun.
Google. But I mean, where I might think that they could go, I mean, it's the integration with all their products. I mean, I don't know if there's a specific thing that they could do. I'd hope that they would go after mobile a little bit more.
Well, they have Motorola now, so you think they would, right?
In theory, yeah. So I mean, they're just doing it incrementally, but sometimes it's really hard to get a feel for what they're doing. This is not the Google of yesteryear. It doesn't feel like it anyway. Because, I mean, I've used Google stuff for years.
So when did you start feeling, was it just the introduction to Google Plus, or was it even before Google Plus that you started feeling?
You know what it was? And, it's one of those love-hate relationship things where you love to hate. No, you...
Why not?
There is no question Google's impact and what they've been able to do, what they've been able to do with data. Of course, they were late to search, and they did just fine with that. Just like if anybody fails, that's not a predictor of the future. The same way that just because somebody succeeded doesn't mean that that's also a predictor of the future. I think it was just over time, watching a product roll out, seeing how the company talked with the customer base, the customer base itself. All of these different little variables kind of came together, and it's while I'm generally a Mac guy, even though I'm on a PC right now, one of the reasons I don't like Windows is that it's so much minuscule stuff stacked on top of each other over and over. But next thing you know, you got this pile of stuff that goes, wow, I just really hate this operating system.
Yeah. Doesn't
mean you don't use it. It just means, God, this thing's awful. And it's a result of all of these like really tiny things over time. And of course you compare it to your personal experience. Adding a printer or changing a network, it is one click, if that, right? And oh wow, it's just this ordeal, and it's like, can't we make it any smoother just to get back to work, kind of thing? Mm-hmm. So in a very similar vein, there were lots of little things over the course of a year that just made me go, wow, this company's starting to change, as they're going to do. Philosophies change.
Well, social seems to be the big thing. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it is, because that's what people are doing. Are they too late to the game to try and do this? And is there enough trust with the company itself for people to buy into it? You know, it's a big space out there.
Yeah. And Bradley from in this interview we did, he did harp on Hangouts a lot, because and it's funny because it seemed like they didn't realize that Hangouts were special when anyone, like, there are a lot of things that just jump out at you, and you would think that Hangouts would have jumped out at them, and they made it seem like, oh, we didn't think Hangouts were going to even really be that big a deal. And now you hear Bradley talk about Hangouts, Obama, and it's crazy, right?
Well, as a matter, in the interest of disclosure, so I've known Loic for a lot of years, and the guy who runs Le Web, and one of the things that he started many years ago was a site called Seismic. A lot of people might know Seismic as a Twitter client. They bought, I forgot who they bought. I thought they bought Ping FM, and they bought the Twirl client. But before all of that, Seismic was a video Twitter. It was a timeline of videos where you could talk at length, and then people could reply to it. And from that, a community was formed. In fact, some of my very best friends came from Twitter, because video provides a type of interaction with people that you just can't get in any other medium. I mean, you see facial expressions, you see environment right behind you. You don't even need to speak the language. You know, you can share a good laugh with somebody that doesn't even speak your language and understand what's going on, right? Body language is everything. So, you know, the video thing always starts and stops over time, because it's very, very expensive to do, and it's extraordinarily hard to monetize. And then Seismic as a company pivoted, and that product went away. In fact, I was just looking at my old friend feed profile, and the link to my Seismic profile is still there, even though the link is broken, because that's where it's like your Twitter profile. So Bradley's right to have the excitement about video, because in so many cases and in so many ways, video has proven itself to be really awful and really wonderful, all rolled up into one.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Hangouts is probably one of the killer apps.
I just think I was
YouTube.
But I was surprised that it was something that they had to, like, see. It's not something that they even, I mean, they had to have been thinking that this is something, right? Do you think, I mean, it's hard to tell. They come across, Google comes across, and they're like, you know, people that create Hangouts, oh, maybe it's just them being, you know, modest, but who knows? I mean, they have to, they're smart people. I mean, for them to think this isn't dynamic, because they were using it in their office, they were all talking to each other and everything. So the idea that
it is a great business tool. It really helps distributed workforces. I help a couple small businesses get their communications in line, and this is one of the things that they use. I get a rep for being a bit of a hater. You know, we talked about that a little earlier. I like to think I'm just tough, not a hater, because, you know, at some point you do have to use things that you dislike. You know, I'm not thrilled about Facebook either, like a lot of people, but there's no way in hell I would ever get rid of it. It's still too valuable and too relevant in a landscape. For business and personal stuff, oh man, the nightmare of interaction I'd have to deal with if I was to delete Facebook, I cannot. No.
I cannot. Oh my.
Oh, what happened to you? Oh my God, a phone would be ringing.
Where did you go? Where's the
Go over to Google. Well, why? They're Google. They are going to build Skynet, and you know, it's just a mess. And it's like, yeah, at some point.
People have some crazy ideas. I wonder, I mean, what they were thinking. Were people thinking that stuff in the AOL days?
Remember, we didn't have a lot of precedent. You know, back last year, everybody was so quick to post that chart. Look how fast Google grows. But there was like this diffusion of acceptance where when Facebook started, aside from the fact that it was just for college kids, we were still kind of new. All we had at that point was a little bit of Friendster and a little bit of MySpace. But it certainly did not have the penetration like cell phones, right? I think Facebook actually at one point passed cell phones as far as the thing you don't have that makes you look really weird. You know, you don't think of anybody not having a cell phone. You don't think of anybody not having a Facebook page. And so when Google Plus comes along, of course people are very quick to join because they understand the notion of doing things at a social level. So I don't know how you can adjust the data to accommodate that truth. where we all know what Twitter is now, years and years after Twitter's been around, so that, I know what sharing is. I know what favoriting or liking or plus oneing something is. It's a concept that we get. So.
I'm with you. I'm for those of you that don't know, as I'm listening to Eric, I'm also trying to not pretend, but really keep in touch with the audience. There's an audience on YouTube, there's an audience on Google+, and that's another thing, getting into following everybody. And we got Alex Waite is watching Where's the Blue Hair. I think you're sick
I could
of
blame it on lighting. It grew out. I cut it. I was watching some of those comments as well. And, it's odd. People were like, wow. No blue hair.
And people are pissed at me. They're like, why are you doing it? Like, I'm sorry. I do Thursdays, and I'm doing a show. In fact, to make it up to you, I'm going to do an extra show on Sunday, July 1st. So you'll have so much show, you'll be like, I can't even.
Right.
But I guess Thursday is must-see TV day, right? So I guess must-see Rappaport. But you guys are on tonight, Robot Underpants, right?
Oh, yeah, a little thing we do every Wednesday night about 10-ish Pacific time.
Little plug. I'm sorry, you don't have time for plugs. Let's keep going. I don't know. And also, I want to get into it. So if you feel like the question's like, and you don't have to give a big answer, but Simon Baptist, under Simon_Baptist, because that's a great name. Just kidding. Said, so how are they going to be a big data company and this big data company and sell to traditional ones without facing a lot of privacy issues? So I guess that's what Simon wants to know, that maybe with social he's thinking there's going to now be a lot of privacy issues. What do you think about that?
I always worry about the future of privacy because I forgot who did a study that said, while everybody says that they're really concerned about privacy, no one really is. We're like, I'm totally, we must have privacy. And
we all shop on Amazon, right? All our stuff's on Amazon anyway, right? What's the difference?
Right. And who I believe could be the sleeper agent for coming up with the social network that would really be damning to a lot of people, because what does Amazon deal with? The selling of not just software and digital things, but goods. The toilet papers of the world.
Although Apple has most people's information too as well from iTunes.
Right, but so there's privacy, and then there's the fact that we just are so needy for attention. We post everything to public and reshare and please plus one and share and like and reshare and whatever it is, right? But I think it's the interaction. I'm kind of concerned where a good layer of data gets influenced by what's popular. So I found that while I generally don't like Search Plus Your World, I use it, but I'm finding I have to keep toggling it on and off, because a lot of times the social graph is not a good indicator of good data. It's just what's popular. And that's kind of I think a valid complaint, that if data gets too obstructed by popularity, you're handing good data integrity over to search engine optimization people, but not just search engine, but social search optimization, SSO. I don't even know if it's a thing yet. But, we have long seen viral marketing companies do things like pay people to sit around in a bar and talk about a product loudly, so that people will go, what are they talking about, right? And they surreptitiously go and search for it. So that's kind of a... companies are really having people sit around and just say stuff for people to search for? There was a company that's still around called Buzz Agent. That they get you to talk about products. And I had taken a long time ago, back when this was a really, really taboo thing, a paid blogging gig, where we got $200 a post to write about a company's product. I can't even remember what it was. We did not have to say anything good. We did not have to say anything bad. We just had to say something. And that was... was a horrible thing, because people were like, come on, you cannot be not biased when you are paid. For the most part, I think everybody was very non-biased. There was a guy who was an Italian blogger, and the product sucked. He fully outlined how bad it sucked. And boom, got paid for it.
It's amazing, right? And then So you talk like people talk about Facebook and other companies, especially Facebook. People have actually said they'll write the article and they'll pay the person to write the article and have them publish it. So I don't know like what the truth is to all that, but it's kind of similar. Yeah, there's a lot of comments. Eric's like, I got to respond to some too.
Yeah, just let people know that I am paying attention to YouTube stream as well. Yeah, so when you get the interaction of people on things, on data, is very important. We're seeing this with Pinterest and what it can do for e-commerce and shopping and retail. And when you look at the brands that are getting the biggest bang for the buck out of Pinterest, they're very well known, maybe not well utilized by some of us, maybe because we're the wrong demographic, but they're not small brands. They are pretty freaking big. They're the real simples in the home and garden televisions and the West Elm, and the home industry is tremendous. Not of course forgetting things like fashion and such. And what people are doing and people's opinions, that's something that it increasingly exists more and more because there's utility first and the social aspect just happens to be added onto it, which I think gives you more truth in the data that you're collecting. I don't believe Google is building a social network. They are being forced into that role because no one will stop talking about it, me included.
So wait, are you trying to tell me that if Google had their pick, they would have left the search engine as is, and they would have never gone into social?
Oh no, because the data, the relationship of people and their opinions to the data of the world is very valuable to them. Because that's the one thing that Facebook does not have is the data of the world.
Right.
They don't
they're getting
have
closer and closer.
They're converging, and I think they're doing it in two different approaches. But where does you gotta look at the value of the social interaction. I mean, yeah, I rag on cat gifs all the time in Catter Day. At some point, that does cloud the data stream. It's like, hey, great. I know how many people at the local office supply store posted something on Catter Day. That's not really helping the office supply store. These are still businesses, and they still need to make money off of data, and they need to advertise against it in new and creative ways because obviously ad blockers.
Although to be fair with what you said, there is plenty of ways to take something as silly as Catter Day and use it to your advantage. I mean, there's plenty of ways to do it. People can hate Catter Day or like Catter Day or like those of you that don't know Catter Day's day. Google Plus, or maybe it's on, I don't know if there's Reddit or somewhere else has it probably too, where everyone just posts cats, but there's plenty of ways to, even if you're not a pet store, to make
the world of neuromarketing is not that far off from doing something like we're going to see what's trending and we're going to see everything of Catter Day and Justin Bieber and we're going to analyze that at the neurological level. And everybody that's posted something, whether it's Ginger Thursday, Catter Day, Bieber photos, I don't care what, George Takei, there's something in there that might be neurologically tied to every single person that's doing it, and then they can find that data, mine it, and sell it, and make a killing before somebody makes it illegal. Because it's like this back-end kind of undercover stuff, and I mean the work's already being done by just a very small handful of companies where they're involved in stuff that's so far off the charts that, yeah, by the time we're ready to be offended by it, it will have already been too late. And that's not a tinfoil statement. That's just simply the concept of neurologically marketing to somebody. I mean, come on, it's not that freaky. We've had terrorist organizations encode data inside of goofy internet pictures. Steganography is a very real thing. So it's not terribly tinfoil to go, come on, people want to make money? Right. Oh, well, we'll find a way. We'll find a way to work around all the blocks that you throw up. The ad blockers.
Right.
Look at all the flash advertising. Great, so we could block pop-ups. Now we can just have the whole background of a page, which is why, incidentally, GM pulled out of Facebook advertising, and people are like, see, Facebook's dying. No, GM wanted to do the Blizzard MySpace thing and just totally trash the place with massive taking over the entire window, and Facebook actually had the integrity for 3 seconds to stand up and say, no, we don't want that.
This comes directly from YouTube. Let's jump around. I'm like totally messing out of my formats, whatever. Roadrunner76B is, Eric, what do you think businesses could do to have G+ work to their advantage? So far, the business pages I see are lacking anything useful. Wow, that's a tough one because I think a lot of people and I don't know if it's correct to call everything a business page, because there are pages that are fun. There are pages. Do you think that maybe they started off wrong by just having everything be a business page? They should have said these are business pages, these are fan, or do you think that would have been too much?
Well, the verification process for a page doesn't put my heart at ease. I mean, there's a lot of hoops to go through, and even the support page that tells you how to verify your business page ends with, and even all of this means there's no guarantee you're going to be verified. Thanks, that doesn't help, right? There's a lot of mixed messages coming out of Google, and I don't know if it's because they put engineers on the front line instead of product people, but when one guy says, we don't target businesses, and the next day there isn't actually an ad running targeting businesses, right hand, left hand, guys, you've got to get it together.
Right.
That said, having said that, I just watched the Seinfeld thing, so that's stuck in my head.
Nice. And I have a page having said that.
Having said that,
yeah.
I would, businesses first got to at least make a page and link to it from your site. Do that. That's just the absolute basics. Engagement will probably be a long time coming because people still to this day have trouble on Facebook pages. You know, you're not going to be Red Bull. Red Bull being the most successful brand on Facebook with like some ungodly 29 million likes or something. So it will take time.
You know,
and just do it to do it. It's a motion that you have to go through.
But for someone like me, that I have a lot of pages. You know, I think that, and a lot of people will say, whoa, 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 I don't want to mix personal business, but I mean, it's social, so it's going to happen, I think. And I think a lot of people are like scared to be like, all right, well, you work for a company, but you can't be social, like, you're part of. And the weird thing is that, like, I don't have that kind of restraint, and I've seen it. It's like I can go out and be myself, be personal, and then if I have, say, my film page, or I have a show page or something, I could then integrate it with everything I'm doing and not worry about that.
Right. I mean, you do have to use it.
Yeah, you have to use your personal profile.
You know,
do you think
the same way that you have to use your Twitter business account, you have to use your Facebook page, because if you don't use it, nothing's going to happen, no matter what network you use. The rules are pretty much the same. And
there are more limitations on business pages than personal, so you could do more things to kind of get your business page out there with your personal profile. And I think a lot of people, that's what people are scared of combining personal and business, and some people are using their personal profile as their business profile instead of the business page, right?
Well, so, yeah, you make those connections first. How do you transform 20,000 followers into a business page? It's really tough. And that's been an issue on Facebook, and unless you're really freaking famous and you can phone it in and they can merge it for you, which is not any of us, yeah, you've got to do it.
Oh my, George
No, well,
not even him. All right.
I was thinking about Robert Scoble, but yeah, same kind of thing.
Either way.
Oh yes, oh my.
Oh my, yeah, that's the big. We'll talk about it a little bit later. The George Takei conspiracy, Takei, too much. We didn't get into, like, we're gonna be here all day. He's like, no. Are these any good? Fabio Sarolo. Is the recent collapse of places, is the recent places collapse, I have to correct everybody's Twitter lish. Is the reason Google Places collapse due to usage being low? It literally says, is the recent collapse of places was because usage is so low, they want to force local businesses to use Google+. I don't know if that made sense, what he's asking, but.
I don't know if that's the reason. And occasionally when I'm out in the wild, I see the Google, find us on Google. We've got probably one of the biggest map products. Everything's got to start with a map and work its way out. I mean, yeah, you can have a profile page and everything. I worry about integration. I worry, and I've said this a lot of times before, and to be fair, there are a lot of ex-Microsoft guys here. I worry that integration will increasingly become a problem. And I know you wanted to talk about Microsoft stuff later. There's actually a lot over at Microsoft that I like a lot too. I just don't have faith in them being able to integrate well either. Google's had weird history when it comes to doing a content play, either killing the product completely or botching it up. But platform plays are fantastic. They do amazing things. And by keyhole, boom, we get Google Earth, all of that. I don't know if it's indicative of that or just that there's so much going on. I mean, we have GChat in 2 different places in our little Google ecosystem. It's in Gmail, and it's a little different than what's on our Google Plus page.
And I can actually, I
can
can confirm, that they are working on making them the same.
Right. So
secret.
The rationalist in me goes, well, they're figuring it out. We can't lose sight of the fact that this was all something that's mandated, right? You must do social or not get paid, right? People are running around bumping into each other. It can't be an easy job for them. But that's, just because it's a mandate, you're still a big company with lots of money. You could probably throw some at it and make this happen in a way that's going to please people, because there's not a whole lot of alternatives out there that are good. I don't know if that's why places die, but they need to merge stuff as best as possible with
now they have local. So how do you feel about local being part of Google Plus? Is that something are people, I know they show people like just using it here and there to be like, okay, I need to find something, and the chances of people so the idea that Google Plus is
like Daggett versus Yelp,
Yeah, but it's more than that, because with the circles, I think they were thinking, okay, well, I think Google Plus had this weird idea that Google Plus was going to run just like Facebook did, which was weird to me, that they didn't think that people were going to especially with a beta period where not everyone could be there. They were going to not have all their friends there, even if their friends wanted it, which a lot of people didn't. So it's weird to me to think that local's going to work like, all these people that live in New York that are having my circles, I'm going to they're going to go review all these restaurants in my area. It doesn't seem. Putting
the coast and the big cities aside, I think everybody knows about the places in their neighborhood, or they're going to ask a friend, or they're going to look for strangers in their neighborhood like that exist on Yelp. Plus how many people live near you that might go to a place. I mean, we know in Portland out here, we know where the best donut place is. Right. We know what the best coffee place is. You know that even before moving here.
Yeah, but sometimes there are new places that open up. You want to see what people think,
And then you've got to go and apply your filters. Know what's a fair review and what's a review by somebody that just likes to complain all the time and is like, oh, this place sucked. It's usually
people do that on the internet, Bryce. People do that on the air. They complain. That's weird.
When it's like the 1-star review out of a ton of 5-star reviews. You're like, this is a guy that probably complains about every restaurant. Like, I had to wait more than 3.5 minutes. Ergo, it fails. And I think that also there's a lot more stability in people's patterns of interacting with the local environment that, rich engineers who travel around a lot to conferences who are always discovering new and exciting places ain't the norm. It's a bubble, and Silicon Valley is my home, born and raised there. I've only been out of the valley for 3 years, 6 if you count 3 years I spent in Florida. And, you're isolated. Because you got money, because you have to. That's the only way you can live there. You travel a lot, and you do this kind of thing. Dodgeball is not something that comes out of the suburbs of Peoria. It comes out of engineers paying too much money for rent and business taxes in San Francisco or in Mountain View. That's the reality of it. It is an absolute bubble. You don't feel it when you're there, of course, because you're like, what? This is how I live. Yeah. You ain't a soccer mom, kid. And
not lady.
The guys that are the management, too, they're in a much different place than, the guy who manages a cement plant in Des Moines,
It's a lot different. And there's the fact that they're trying to make Google Plus and have all these features, and they have all these teams meet or don't meet or talk or don't talk, or they all meet, but then they all have their own meetings, and there's all these sub pieces, and and email and feedback and phone calls, text. I could barely. There's so much going on even in this Hangout alone, trying to figure it all out. I can't imagine how they can get it all together. It's a crazy thing, right? To imagine something like that.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to get anything done. Well, moving on. Oh, something that you like. Google Glass is on the horizon. Someone wanted then the week to ask Google Glass and G Plus integration with third-party apps, and that's getting into, I guess, a little bit with the API. But go ahead.
Oh, well.
There's no real question. They just said, can we have third-party apps? I guess.
Yeah. That's we were talking about that yesterday with a great product that was created by a bunch of Googlers called FriendFeed, which is later acquired by Facebook, but Facebook didn't do anything with it. And Brett Taylor, who is actually leaving Facebook at the end of summer, he was kind of instrumental in working with that, and it was a fantastic destination. It wasn't a destination like it. It was a place that wasn't a social network. And it's always been amusing to me because some of the very, very religious commentary that people have made about Google Plus and how this is where it is and always will be forever is exactly what they said. You know, they said it with Twitter, they said it with Pounce, they said it with Jaiku, they said it with FriendFeed, they say it with every damn product that comes out.
Yeah, especially the tech bloggers.
And what happened was everybody pointed all of their other stuff into FriendFeed. So, yeah, I post twice a day on average over there, and I don't post over there. What I do is I like stuff, and I upload photos, and I bookmark things in Digo, and it shows up there because that's what I ported into it. That is the API, and everybody, I think this is one thing everybody who's paying attention agrees with. When you open up the API and allow third-party things to post, it means we can fill up Google Plus with content and not be here. For those people that are looking for engagement of other people, for those who are, and even though everyone says, but it's an interest-based network. Yeah, except the interest will come flooding and there will be no people there to engage with.
And it'll be more like Facebook, and there's a lot of, and as many people as use Facebook, I have to be honest with you, you're going through people's timelines, there's like occasionally you see a couple of comments and links.
It's more and more becoming third party.
Yeah.
Well, same basic principle. You know, is it easy just to fire open a client, like a Hootsuite or a TweetDeck, and just make one post and scatter it everywhere?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. To not have to be here and post stuff, just let it run on autopilot.
But that's also the
bad.
But that's also the worst thing you could do. We talk about this just useless a lot. We talk about all these celebrities and the idea of someone like an Ashley Tisdale, because someone put a picture up. That's why I have nothing against her. But maybe I'd like to. But the point is that how old is she?
Got that.
The idea that she posts the same tweet on Google Plus, that her ghostwriter or whatever. It's like word for word. At least change the words, make it a little do something different.
Yeah, I mean, on Twitter it's just shorter, right? But
yeah, not always.
The downside of not having an API is every product, underwear, yogurt, potato chips, bus signs, they all say Facebook and Twitter. There is no G+. There is none. And all of the rallying and all of the screaming about, let's make a trending topic to get George Takei over here, means nothing to the rest of the world when all the rest of the world has is AOL keywords for the competitors everywhere.
So in fairness to George Takei, me and Eric were just arguing because
I had no idea his name was pronounced Takei until I saw the "It's okay to be Takei."
Right. Even though he says "Oh my," which
I always thought it was Takai.
Yeah.
I've been doing it wrong.
Does he have "Oh my"? I hope that's not catch. He's gonna come after us, right? No.
I don't know, but he's got it as a ringtone on iTunes. The "Oh my."
But so there's a valid point in what you're saying. We all wanted it, or a lot of people wanted him here, and the idea that he was like, he even said, I think in the post he said, oh, there needs to be, I need to prove to Brad, who's either his husband, his husband, prove to him that there's enough people, so he wanted to have 250K, but I think it's 25K, I don't know, and he made a post, but he was saying, he actually, I think, to Kay, used the word ghost town in his post.
Brad, his husband.
Well, but he still posted it. So it's interesting that everyone loves George, but his husband thinks this place is a ghost town. They have to prove to each other. But at the end of the day, what you're saying maybe makes sense. I'm not saying that, listen, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but for people that are out there that have their businesses set up, do they want to go through the trouble of I mean, I don't think it's much trouble, but maybe to some people it is, right?
And it's only a little newsworthy, by the way, because it's a celebrity who is cool in a more mature way than Bieber. Like all day today, Justin Bieber was trending during the whole Takei thing, or Takei thing.
Takei.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to slip it up. Don't sue me.
We're going to make a YouTube video. We're going to sing about I call him Takei, you call him Takei.
Yeah, potato. No, well, apparently Gene Roddenberry did call him Takei.
Right.
Because there was a memorization thing, according to IMDb. Yeah, you know, if this was a Bieber thing, people would be raging on it. So, you know, shifting things. Oh, well, it's somebody who's cool. That's fine. That's fine. Jerry Ryan, yeah, we're cool with her, right? It's Jerry freaking Ryan, right? Oh, but if it's anybody not as cool as those people in that kind of subculty early adopter thing, not having it.
Although I do find it weird that there's a Star Trek connection between Will Wheaton, William Shatner, George Takei, and Jerry Ryan, that they've all been in a Star Trek, and that's kind of a little creepy, maybe a little weird.
I don't read that much into it. But yeah, at the end of the day, not having an API means that there are no third-party things that post here at all.
Right.
And yeah, there's extensions and hacks and tricks and stuff that are out there, but that's not production grade. That's not mainstream sellable.
Yeah.
And then this loops back to the business thing. That's why you have to make some effort, but don't spend a lot of time on it because it's not there yet. And yeah, ghost town's a little harsh of a term, and the media is going to do what the media is going to do, but people believe the media, whether we like it or not. And so when you're in that professional role, you just have to use what's available in the way that it's available. Worry about Facebook not being a relevant thing for our business when, yeah, it's like there's 100 million active monthly users. Then we can talk. When there's still that many millions of, yeah.
Although I will say, to be fair, and maybe this is wrong, I mean, sure, you got a lot of people that say, okay, they love the Bieber and all that stuff on Facebook and the musicians, but when it comes to, and sure, the business is a big business, but the medium-sized businesses, the medium-sized pages, all that, the interaction there might be similar to I mean, maybe it's still higher, but...
Do it for the very reason that this is a search engine. And you want to exist here.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying don't do it. Yeah.
I mean, don't forget what we are playing around in. Every comment you make, every post you make in public, which, come on, yeah.
Well, even limited.
That's the other thing. When that API shows up, developers will see how much private engagement there is. So
but even
we
limited
can only
shows...
take Google at their word on how much engagement there is in private. We can't run on the anecdotal, well, me and all my friends are private. That's great, but that's not real numbers.
Yeah.
The API would pull the curtain back.
Would pull it up, and maybe they don't want people to see that, who knows. But also the idea that it's limited, it's like, because of Search Plus Your World, if it's limited, it still shows up in certain people's searches. But yeah.
And people are frustrated. There's a lot going on at Facebook that people don't like, and maybe they don't like the friends and family, and there's always got a story, and Twitter's too short. And so I think people are like, well, Google, Microsoft, nobody even bothers making fun of them anymore. And Google's like the only one left, right? And I always tease people about, come on, man, you're rooting for a super corporation, just like Facebook, just like Microsoft. They're all megacorps, right?
Yeah.
Google's got the balls to take on China. I'm pretty sure they can do whatever they want with your data, and they'll have tons of people lining up because they got operating systems and phones and docs and all this stuff.
But
they can do whatever they want.
But at the end of the day, I don't, like you said, to care that much about where your data is going. But for people to be so upset, privacy and data, you're like, look, so what?
Yeah.
I mean, you know how many companies have your data that send you junk mail? Are you upset about it? I mean,
the DMV, man, or own a house, buy a house.
But why?
You can afford it, buy a house, right?
But if people know everything about you, what are people afraid of? Identity theft? Like, what are they afraid of?
Identity theft is a very real thing.
Okay.
Impersonation? No, it's not that. It's the impersonation of you in an anonymous thing like a database for a credit card app.
Yeah.
Shred your credit card apps, burn them, don't just throw them in the recycle bin. And I think people deep down don't want to address the fact it's like dying, right? Nobody wants to think about death. I think nobody wants to think about there is a slim chance that there might be some truth. The only reason the ghost town thing is so irritated is that, well, your experience is great, but there's a very real chance that it could be by the numbers. Just because your world is fantastic doesn't mean that it's, it could actually be a very real thing, and that API could go, oh, yeah, the numbers were kind of conflated a bit.
Kind of weird. Hey, just let me pause for a second. Hangout Conversations. People watching live on YouTube, Alex Waits, Roadrunner 76B, and this is another thing about the YouTube Google Plus integration we're going to get into later about people liking or not liking. Bazu, Zalif, KOZ, Kaz, I guess his name is. I think he knows you. DC Jello, and I think that's Cynthia or Cheryl, I'm not sure. Cool, and a lot of people are watching is Jacob Chappelle and Cliff Roth and D Cleverly. Thanks for watching. And there's a couple other questions that are going on, but let's get into the big one. And you touched on a little bit, in your mind, just in one sentence or two sentences, what do you see Google Plus as? What is it in your how do you do you think it's been defined wrong? Can you define it? Can you define it maybe in its current state versus what they want it to be? Or
well, it's, and I do sometimes have fun trolling this fact. It walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, right? You post stuff. People comment on stuff. They flag their approval by clicking a button, and then they can share their stuff. And there's some control, so if somebody you don't like shows up, you can be like, you don't exist to me anymore.
See you later.
This pattern, this thing that I just described could be Facebook, it could be Twitter, it could be Google+. And maybe there's some regional cultural differences, but probably not. Right. You're still a demographic of 18 to 35, single, married, white, Hispanic, Latino, whatever. You're still a bigger demographic than the social network that you use. So it is the same thing, and I think people outside that don't have the allegiance to it, they see that. So it's like, yeah, it's a social network. Because I'm not doing anything different here than I'm doing anywhere else.
And that's a fair thing to say. That's a fair thing to say, and I don't think...
Yeah, at the moment it's a social network until it goes away and is forgotten and is just part of all of the Google properties. And then at that point, hopefully, we won't be burned out on social, because I know sometimes when I look something up on a map and I got to wade through all the opinion, or I have to turn it off, I'm like, look, I just needed to know where the parking lot was for this building, and now I've got 4,000 reviews from my circles about, well, I must say, the exquisite architecture of this parking garage. How much is it? Dude, I just want to know, how much is it to park my freaking car here?
There's one time I skipped school and I parked there, and then they...
Yes, and there's blog posts and everything.
No, but one time I took school...
Just fear that the deluge of social in everything might pop a little, and could be too little too late.
I was trying
Microsoft's no better in some of the stuff that they're doing. Everyone's trying to go, let's curate search results.
They're all going to do it. They're all going to copy each other, emulate each other. They were doing it. They were when Google Plus launched, Facebook and them were going back and forth. Feature this day. Oh, I got to do the response. I was just real quick. I was doing a Ferris Bueller reference, and that was because Chicago Hip, the whole that's hanging in person, which probably maybe like better than Hurl. That's happening starting tomorrow. I know Marsha Reed, a couple people. Nikki Chrome, Steve Vargas, Candace Hanlon are doing that. That should be, hopefully you guys have fun. Sorry I couldn't be there. But yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna emulate. Everyone's gonna try to I'm kind of surprised a little surprised that Facebook doesn't have the group video chat yet, and maybe they're working on it, or maybe they're like, we don't need it because no one's gonna use it.
Well, they also have a development ecosystem where people can make that, and there's lots of video chats over there.
Right,
the younger generations are the ones that are using it more. Much to the contrary to the belief that every time somebody comes out with an app, it happens to do video. They use Facebook's, infrastructure, which every app does. It's a Facebook thing all of a sudden. No, just please read the article again. Somebody asks or observes that, Hangouts on Air are kind of this different thing. And yeah, it is. But I would question, is this more of a YouTube thing? Would it just be easier if we could just fire open YouTube, fire up a live thing and say, make this a Hangout instead of just a performance thing? Because there is YouTube Live. You just go, boom, do something live. Wouldn't this just be better suited over there? I think Hangouts has to stay here to take advantage of the text stream. That's the same. But yeah, that is absolutely value add. And I love video. I love what video can offer. So
we can't. That's the only thing we can't.
Yes,
can't touch you.
Kind of creepy.
It's kind of creepy. Yeah, it's weird. Not as creepy as taking your pants off, because that never happens here. What?
Not in public, man. That's every rose has its thorns, right?
Every thorn has its. So. Not a question, but they were talking on the web about connecting all the services on Google with Google Plus and circle integration with all the different stuff, and that people are starting to kind of get upset about that starting in YouTube. We're seeing that where now on YouTube in the middle of your stream, anyone you've circled, I think you get to see what their YouTube activity is, and I think people
and you can turn that off. I mean, but again, you know, and a lot of times people will hide behind the, well, it's Google's house, they can do what they want. Okay, do you have to rearrange the furniture in every room as soon as I leave the room? Because at some point, that might bug you. Yeah, your answer should not be not to use it. You know, it's like when somebody, you know, a homeowners association puts up rules that are too stringent. You're like, okay, guys, I understand we're trying to make a nice neighborhood here and keep the value of our homes up, but don't you think you're
realistic?
A little overboard? Yeah, so I subscribe to, I think, like 30 channels, and all of a sudden, in my YouTube stream, everything that anybody that I've circled, which is a small number, plus one didn't share it. And I'm like, this is not the stuff I would subscribe to. Because I subscribe to you as a person did not mean that I like your taste in videos. But I have no way of separating the content types like I can on something like a Pinterest, where I can actually focus on a part of you. So you basically just have to select uploads only, and then it will go back to just your stream. Yes, it is their house. They can do that. That doesn't necessarily make it right. That doesn't necessarily make it an appealing product that's convoluted and a harder sell, not just for Google to sell to the rest of the world, but for us to sell to the rest of the world. You know, we have to use all this fuzzy, weird language. I think what the diehard fundamentalist of Google Plus is going through is what Mac people have gone through for years. You know, you have to explain but it just freaking works. It's just a thing. You just know this is the best thing that you could buy. And you just know that it just works. It senses the printer in the trunk out in the garage. You know, it just knows.
User-friendly.
And that doesn't translate, really, to some people. They're like, but it's the same thing. No, but it's different. No, yes, no, it's not.
Yeah, but going to, and listen, this show, I like Google Plus. I mean, I feel like I spent the last year here, and Eric, no matter what he says, there is a like for it because he's been here as well. But I will say, listen, Google Plus, you go through beta period. We sit there through beta period. We get invites. New features are coming out, hitting us in the face, left and right. And then after all this time, we find, you know, some people, I didn't know that was a DS4 model, whatever. All of a sudden, we wake up and Google Plus is totally different. You've scrapped everything that we've gotten used to, and now it's a brand new layout. Everything is brand new. There's white space that people are bitching about, and all these different features.
But part of that was the fun, you know. That was some cultural fun and games, you know.
There was some fun involved, but it was tough.
You do have to temper against the fact that some people will never be happy, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And some people are willing to deal with things they don't like. I'm not particularly fond of green beans, but I'll eat them. I have set a model for my kids. Yeah, you might not, unless it's making you throw up. Eat it. Shut up and eat your green beans. And my wife was kind of like discouraged. She's like, oh, you have been making green beans? You don't like them? I'm like, yeah, but it's not that earth-shattering to me to eat a green bean. Is it going to be the first thing on my choice of, I want a vegetable? I'm not going to reach for the green bean. But if it's served, whatever. You know, maybe that's selling myself short, but I think that's where I think a lot of rationality. A lot of that, by the way, comes from the fact that I grew up as a graphic designer. Right, and that is a job where you have to think about everybody else. You want to do art for yourself, become a fine artist. If you want to do it for other people and be anonymous and just like, this is just utility, you're a graphic designer. My job's to understand everything else and do not what I like, but do what actually works. And it's an odd type of art. It's a commercial art. And I think that brain thinking is what makes me go, you know, I don't have to like it. I just have to acknowledge its reality. The same way that, I don't like Facebook either. I don't need to wage a jihad over it because that doesn't make me look sane. I mean, that's the thing that drives me to nuts is the fundamentalism. I swear it's like listening to political parties argue with each other. You know, and people change, I don't like quit suckbook. Really? That's like saying, you know, Obama or Republicans. You are no different than partisan political hacks. And it kind of makes everybody look crazy. If everybody's being so fundamentalist and religious about it, kind of makes you look kooky.
You know what? The interesting part of the whole thing is that I don't know what the Facebook people are saying, although Zuckerberg did say, of course I have a Google account. Why wouldn't I have a Google account? And the idea that Zuckerberg doesn't talk to people at Google, I'm sure they do. They're in the same Silicon Valley. They all talk to each other. But the thing that's funny is, telephone. The thing that's funny is Google, I mean, they come out and, mostly have said, you know, that there is a Facebook, there is a Microsoft, there's a Twitter. Like, they don't, there's a little bit of edge, but like as soon as you see like Vic, oh, here it has an iPhone, or people have iPhones at Google. Oh, right. I mean, people are like, get like, oh, you guys have iPhones at Google. Yeah, of course they make iOS products. Why wouldn't they have iPhones? I mean,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's like, Microsoft makes a Mac, Office for Mac kind of thing. Of course they've got to have Macs around, So, it's...
Let me... back to the audience. Alex Angeli is here. He's my US of whatever. And DC Jello, I got you wrong. It's not Cynthia or Cheryl, and I should know who it is. But again, that's another thing. YouTube names I don't have to memorize, so it's not your real name. It's tough. But thanks for watching. And Alex was saying, that's my dog scratching. Hey, May, can you? She's not going to stop. You were doing something different though. You're doing Hangouts on Air, something that no other social network offers. And yeah, I mean it is different. I mean YouTube Live is hard to get, and you could do live streaming, and you could do what's it called? The other one. What's the other live streaming one? I don't know, but you could. It's not on a social network, although they tried to make like live stream and the other streaming that I can't think of. Anyway, as we drop viewers, I better go back to Eric because they're here to hear you talk, not me, right? They're like, we don't care what that Rappaport says. No, but what do you think? I mean, like, is that the Hangouts on Air? I mean, how annoying is my dog right now? I'm sorry. Hey, can you stop?
I have two dogs, so I'm fully they're out because they bark. One barks at everything, so. Yeah, it's good, and I think it's good too because you will find for those people that do brave Hangouts, public or otherwise, I think that you will find that there is probably a little bit more of a closer connection that you have to people that you, even the tone of their posts. I mean, I probably could look at some of the posts that I make and I'm like, God, what an asshole that guy is. But then I hear me talk and go, okay, he's not completely out of his gourd. Then you hear me in the post that you read. It's like when you watch a movie and then you read a book and you're like, okay, now I know when I'm reading The Hunger Games 2 and 3 now, I've already got a mental picture of the characters because it was put in my head. So, that's video. And that's always going to win. It's nice that Google's brought it to the masses and they can afford to lose money on it, right? They can let it happen, It makes us more comfortable as a society interacting with people, realize, hey, maybe I should clean my room, right? Or
I did do that one.
Wow, I'm not holding a camera stare, just little things.
I feel like I didn't even start like the Eric Rice. I should jump over this Google Plus stuff and come back to it. I mean, people want to watch probably for the Google Plus stuff, but we can go back to it. Let's go into Eric Rice a little bit. You love tech, you love gaming. You've been around basically since the beginning of the internet. You've seen a lot of companies come and go. You also enjoy fixing up your house. You have land. I believe you have animals, too. Do you have sheep or goats?
Oh, yeah.
And
sheep, chickens, dogs, children.
Did the kids help you with the animals? Or?
Yeah, to a certain extent. We've only been out here for a short period of time, so it's even new to me. And it wasn't like we moved out to the countryside to be like, let's live off the land or let's hunker down and escape the terror.
Right. Although people have the idea of Portland like being very like veganist and hip.
Well, it is. Yeah, Portland City, if you've seen Portlandia, it's kind of dead on accurate. You get outside there, you're in a lot of rural areas. And technically I am in Washington State, but, it's all the Portland metro. And so, yeah, I mean, you can live in acreage out here and do whatever you want, which is very similar to being with not enough space. Because you're like, oh, my God, I have no space. I don't know what to do with myself. You're having too much space, same thing. You're like, oh, my God, I don't know what to do with myself.
Right.
Do I mow there or do I mow there? Or do I mow there?
Or do you just leave it? Yeah, you don't care. But you've been in a lot of different rooms. Sometimes Eric is in his garage or he's here and you have another office or another angle.
Well, mobile computing.
All over the place. And but how did you get all from the beginning? How did you get hooked up into it? Did you start with games or the old school IBMs and Apples, 600 or 1200 modem? Like, how did you get? What was your into the tech?
It was probably, well, I mean, things like the Radio Shack Trash 80, TRS-80. That was like 5th grade for me. In high school is when I started graphic design by way of a vocational program, and we had Illustrator 88. We had one computer. I think it was like a Mac CX or CI, and it had Illustrator 88. And it was just one. And then I went, immediately out of high school, went to a technical college and ended up working there. So I had studied computer design or computer graphics ended up being a teaching assistant, and then I also then at night after teaching during the day took programming. So it was like C++, Unix, DBase 4, all of that. And this was, all early 90s and stuff. So, I mean, it ended up where I got thrown into this position where I'm working. And then the teacher that I was assisting for was sick, like, all the time. So I ended up carrying the class until I got to write graphic design curriculum. But, yeah, it was all Quark Express and Macro. Well, it was Macromind before they became Macromedia, before Adobe bought them. So Director, the foundation for doing things like building Flash and stuff like that. A little bit of Photoshop back then, but it was like Photoshop 1.5, I think. So, yeah, it's kind of weird to have used something for 20 years. I used this piece of software for 20 years. That's just weird, but at least I don't feel as old. Yeah, right.
So did you go through, you went through all the stages, you had like the slowest modem, and then you kept going up.
Well, yeah, I was on BBSs. Right. I think I was on
IRC, BBS.
2400 baud is when I entered. I don't think I had a 1200 baud. You didn't have a
1200. I
think 2400 baud is where I started.
Cool.
I mean, at least that's where networking started, because I remember my mom worked for a hard drive manufacturer in Silicon Valley, and so she had brought home a Mac in like 84, 85.
They really milked the modem speeds, didn't they? Like getting the most out of that money, like going up and up.
Man, that day you get a 56K US robotics modem, you're like, yeah, like a boss right now. I do whatever I want. Watch this text fly up my screen, right?
Right.
And I think I had like a 286 laptop that had like AOL on disk. But I think I had a SlipNet account was my first. Once I was connected to the internet, it was a SlipNet account, and then I got a CompuServe account just because. You wanted to get everything.
Yeah, no, I was going to go into the social media history. I have it somewhere. Yeah. IRC and chat. Well, we'll get into that in a second. I'm wondering, it's interesting. What's interesting, and those of you watching might find it interesting, when we stopped talking about Google Plus to talk about Eric. Oh, I just lost Eric. When we stopped talking about Google Plus to talk about Eric, Eric decided to jump out and jump in.
I decided to hit F5. Wrong window. Sorry. Continue.
That was a magic trick. No, I was going to say the viewership is pretty steady, but when we lost a couple of people when we stopped talking about Google Plus and we jumped to you. That was interesting. And I wonder, just as an experiment, let me go back to Google Plus for a second to see if it goes back up.
Please don't.
We'll
talk about George Takei later. No,
not Takei, but I was some of these other questions. Bradley talked about friction, circles, and stop people from just saying everything that comes to their head, and he feels like, but I feel like friction makes it harder to interact as far as with features go, and so this idea of friction versus non-friction, and the idea of circles being like a way to control what you're saying to who, separating business and work, but like I said, it's harder to do things with your business page from your personal page. If I find a post that I really want to post with my Hangout Conversations page, and then I have to go switch over or share it with that page. And anyway, but so what is your feeling about this whole idea of having a social network? Like, is that the difference between Facebook and Google Plus? Or I don't even know, or Twitter and Google Plus? I mean, that you share people. Do you think it seems like a lot of people don't share public a lot? Do you think that's true? Like, you're talking about private engagement, and that's what they want. They want it or they don't want it.
Well, but then again, there's always this line about you discover people you don't know, right? Facebook's for people you know, even though now you can follow somebody on Facebook without having a relationship, much like Twitter. Mm-hmm. But you can't discover people you don't know if their content can't be found. When you lock it up, you can't find it. So it gets into this weird thing where, at some point you have to be bigger than the network. You have to make sure that what have I done with people I've met on G+, I friended them on Facebook, and I follow them on Twitter. Now, if anybody blows up, we got it covered, we're good.
Right.
But that's just being good at internet, right? That's not, I must wave the flag for whatever. I mean,
Yeah, just covering your bases. And so along with that, Guy asked to Nick about the real metrics, and you were talking about Alexa the other day, and I've used Alexa and now Cloud and Fire Apps.
Cloud.
And all these things, but, Google does analytics, so G Plus analytics doesn't seem like a strange thing. Maybe it'll come to see, I guess, profile view. I don't know what it'll show us, but what's your feeling about the metrics and the analytics and all that jazz?
I've used the analytics stuff, and it's fine. Is it something people want for their business page? Absolutely. Personal, I don't know. I mean, there's so much going on. I think it's a very real concern to say, God, they could just get so crazy Microsoft here where there's so much going on. Look how long, and you don't know what political battles can happen. I mean, for God's sakes, the Xbox is finally getting Internet Explorer. They're the only company that makes a video game console and a browser, and they couldn't get the two together. For what I believe is political reasons. Nintendo and Sony don't make browsers, but they have had browsers on their crappy ones, but whatever. They had browsers on their consoles for years.
Yeah.
Could a similar situation happen here? So, yeah, I think everything will work out fine. They'll be able to integrate this, integrate that. Will it be too little, too late? I don't think anyone's that good. There's a risk that it might be.
Yeah, I know we keep talking too little, too late. Although there is this idea, they say, okay, Google Plus only 11 months or a year or whatever, and I guess the only it doesn't bother me, but I just think it's strange that I know things take time and they have priorities, but with all the people, even though they say Google Plus is a small team, I believe they keep hiring more people. I mean, it seems like some of these features or some of these wants, it took too long. Like even though it's weird to hear because we've got so much, but you must feel like they should have, some of them were basic enough. Something like posting from your profile seemed basic enough not to take 11 months, right? So,
well, you're going to see things too. I mean, first of all, the one thing to learn about social is that you have a product that is used by another product, the people that use it, and if they're not happy, they will make noise. When people see problems and they get more little Hangout toys, they're going to talk about it loudly, everywhere, constantly. I've done this. I think a lot of people have done this. Where something doesn't work right in a Hangout, we don't get moderation controls. Oh, but we got a cute little Conan hairpiece that we can throw on our head. Again, it's the death by 1,000 cuts. Little crap like that will start to annoy people. And you know what? It's not the people that rage quit. Those are drama people. It's the people who fade away because you never know that it happened. I've wondered in the back of my head, I mean, isn't it saying something that everybody had to beg a celebrity to use the place instead of him just being here? There's other celebrities here.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. I mean,
we could probably debate that at length, but
and we might do it.
He still had to beg, and he's at 30K, right? So does the fatigue kick in? I don't know, And
also, so it's nice to have him here, but I mean, I see he's got Pinterest. I don't really look at him on Facebook. I saw his Pinterest and looked at it, but I mean, is everybody? I mean, all these people that want him here, I get it's Google Plus. It's like our home, but even those of you that don't use Facebook, do you really not use Twitter? Do you not use Pinterest? Do you not use anything besides, most people use stuff besides Google Plus, something, right? So, I did not know that he was on Pinterest, and you know what? I would follow him on Pinterest because I can follow his advocacy work, but not his, I don't follow him because, you know what? Everybody rips him off and posts the stuff here anyway. I can only handle so many memes in a day, right? It's not that they're not funny. It's just that they're not funny 1,000 times. And I had to uncircle a NASA guy because he went from posting science to stupid crap, and I'm like, I'm stuck. At least on Pinterest, he's got his science board, he's got his, and forget that it's a visual thing that you don't get, whatever. But it's the whole, here's the place for your science stuff. Here's a place for your stupid memes and your cats. I don't have to follow that. Don't call them stupid.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
It's fine.
And if I have to unfollow. Uncircle a scientist from NASA because their content quality is sliding, well, for those of you that don't know, Eric Rice is very particular about his circles. He circles, he uncircles, he's got ADD in a good way, but... I'm also, I think, finding myself becoming a little bit more particular because people look at circling as a form of currency or as a reward. It's not.
Well, but not all people think of that.
I maintain that the best content from people comes out in a hangout over video, and I think that the people that I hang out with, well, they're amazing people on video. The content streams, no, please no.
All right, well, but Motivus Jones made it funny. He said it was easier to get George Takei here than his family members, so that's true. So,
yeah.
It is what it is, but.
Is he here because he wants to be here, or is he here for himself? I mean, why is he here?
Well, he's obviously, listen, Georgia K is obviously here, and I'm not putting anything down, but hello, he wants attention, so he can I don't know if he makes money, but he must be, I'm sure all that attention is getting him gigs.
It certainly helps his advocacy thing, because he's got a lot of good stuff going on.
Which is good, which is a good cause. So the result of that was we stayed steady during that Google Plus. We can go back to Eric Rice and see if it drops. This is Alexa, ladies and gentlemen. The Rappaport Alexa. So gaming, you're a big gamer. What do I got here? The history of gaming. So did you start all the way back on Pong? Like, did you have a Pong?
Oh, yeah, I was grounded from Pong as a kid.
Yeah?
I had a list of punishments, so if I didn't get good grades or whatever, Pong was one of the things that I would either only be limited to like an hour, or I would just be not allowed to do it.
Now,
so
how long could one person play one game over and over again? Was it that addicting or addictive?
I got a 10 and a 12-year-old, and the crap they play on YouTube on endless loop. There are people in the world that listen to the 10-hour Trollolol song, and they're 10, and they're right across the freaking hallway from me.
They came from you. All right.
Right. So
you're like, what?
But we did that though. That's how we listened. That's how we memorized some of the songs that we loved from our childhood, right? We'd listen to this stuff on endless freaking rotation. We probably were driving our parents just batshit insane. I don't know.
And we could blame Vanilla Ice for that, but.
Right. So as a kid, whatever. But Nintendo, and then I had Pong. Then
Atari and ColecoVision, or that.
I don't know if I don't remember. I do clearly remember though. Nintendo had the gold Zelda cartridge. On and off with various consoles. Had a Sega Genesis. I got.
Did you have a favorite game from either of those that you recall? Zelda or?
I love Zelda. Oh my God. Zelda was fantastic. I also love the Karate Kid on Sega Genesis.
Oh, I never played that one, man. I think.
Yeah, I think we had every Sega Genesis title. Because then at some point my mom and my grandmother got into playing games on Sega Genesis, and so that was kind of cool.
Wow.
But yeah, so I go back and forth between Xbox and PlayStation. There's a token Wii here that nobody really even uses. Really fascinated with some of the developments with Xbox and the Kinect. And then, of course, I do desktop gaming, so MMOs mostly. I'm not an RTS person at all. I've noodled with, should I try Diablo? It's a little too God-viewy for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a very healthy respect for things like StarCraft. the genre, I cannot play that.
Yeah. No, I was into StarCraft for a while, and there is that, like, it's almost like you're gambling, like you're sitting there at the poker table because you're like, oh my God, I gotta get this done, and it's like work to play.
And I played WoW for 7 years, and I've been playing Tor, and it's not even a game. It's more of what do you do? It's flipping channels. It's like the equivalent for me of just sitting back and I'll probably start leveling up one of my tunes for getting ready for Pandaria, but I'm not.
So you've gone through all the. Pretty much the game. You got the Super Nintendo, the Game Boy, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360.
I'm a racing game guy, kind of an adventure game guy. I'm not so much a platformer. I'm starting to like FPSs, but they're starting to all blur together, and I'm like, Portal.
But would you say Kinect basically is your big thing? Xbox 360 and Kinect? Is that your big? You spend the most time on that, or?
No, because it needs some development. It's the best of the breed right now. Sony's not really developing a lot of their camera games. Not any different than what they were doing with the PS2. I'd be willing to say that what Sony did with the camera, the PlayStation Eye, with the PlayStation 2 was more involved than what they did for the PlayStation 3. And then they've got the Move, and you're holding the controllers. But I think the Kinect is probably the closest thing to something that would be embraced on a wider scale. But I think most of that had to do with the hacker community around the Kinect, ripping it apart and doing whatever they wanted with it, and Microsoft, instead of being dicks about it. They're like, that's cool. Yeah, in fact, here's an SDK for Windows. Really? That's different. And there's rumor that an Asus laptop is going to have that technology in there. It's, and they have to sell against the fact that people go, what, Connect? I'm not going to do this in front of my, wave arms. No, it's just another type of input that might have its utility.
But that's silly, because people do that with their eyes and their voice all the time, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you use a mouse, sometimes you use a trackpad. I could really, have a brief touch thing on my monitor just so I could swipe that one thing away. But that means I'm not going to sit all day like a zombie in front of my computer with my arms out.
Yeah, it's funny. So did you, before I go on, because I'm going to get into the Apple and Microsoft that you bring up, but did you have a couple of games besides, are there games now you're playing that come to mind that you just love, or you're like really into, either on Xbox?
I just finished Ghost Recon, which I enjoyed, considering I'm not really a stealthy type player. I finished enough Skyrim not too long ago. And then I've been messing around with some of the more lighter games. I'm going to actually start Portal 2 co-op. I finished Portal 2 ages ago, but I'm going to be doing the multiplayer with somebody who hasn't
That's cool.
Played it. I'm messing around with other stuff that I haven't really played, things like Fruit Ninja on the Kinect. Because for me, I am interested in this alternative form of interfacing and wanting to do it well. I don't want to be like, that's stupid. No, I'd rather be good with it. Yeah. And not hurt. Because years ago I played with a Tekken 3 thing in an arcade where you had to punch and kick, and man, I was so sorry. You overextended and threw out everything. We could actually hurt ourselves with the Kinect if we don't have self-control. Right? And I want to use the things that are kind of hard. Right. It's like, it's like typing on glass. A lot of people don't like typing on glass. Well, I'm not crazy about it either, but training myself to do it means that I'm up to like 60 words per minute.
Yeah,
which is, easy. I think, pretty good for glass.
Yeah, it's not easy.
That was what I'm going to do all the time, but.
And that's why a lot of people didn't want to switch from their BlackBerry to an iPhone, because they were like, I like the keyboard, and then having to go, and then you're like.
I don't want to be that old person who is like, I don't get this newfangled stuff. In my day, appreciate your history, but adapt. Because, I've run into like 70-year-olds that play like Lord of the Rings online and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's different, but, more power to them. They want to kick back. Well,
they weren't always 70, but yeah.
Right, but it's not like they were, back in the 60s we played, But
we used to play with each other. What? We used to go outside.
Yeah, I don't want to be a kids today kind of guy.
That's interesting too, right? Because you have kids. So what do they think of their dad? This is the only dad they knew. The fact that you are all internet encompassed, you're all social network, you're gaming. Are you just like a cool dad, or does it ever get to them where they're like, "Oh my God, Dad"?
Everybody nags me. Somebody coming home from school and asking, "Hey, can you start the server or what have you?"
You're the tech guy. Whoa, what happened? Did you just like meet yourself on purpose there, guys? That what happened?
Oh, nope, I had to answer something. So, but at the same time, it can be like you can't BS me and say, "Oh, I'm in a place that I can't pause." Oh yeah, bull crap. You just close that DS. I know how that game saves. It's hard to pull one over.
Can you beat your kids at all these games, or do they beat you, or like what?
Well, we're not. They're kind of in the more world things. They're doing more Minecraft things. On one hand, they have played Minecraft for a year, and I just started playing it. So I do defer. I want them to learn how to teach, because it's very hard to teach, and kids trying to teach other kids things, not pretty. Because one person doesn't do it right, and the other kid rages and everything. So I let them actually teach me things. So I genuinely ask them for help on something that I have physically not done. And, it's a lot of fun. In fact, Xbox Minecraft is four-player. So, I can keep up, though, because I know how to game. But, generally, they're just not playing some of the same stuff. They're not really doing shooters a lot. Kind of by choice, really.
That's cool. Cliff Roth just said amen. I don't. It was about 10 minutes ago, and you just, maybe he was talking about the 70-year-old thing, but you said that less than 10 minutes ago, so I'm not sure, Cliff. And Ryan Mansickle's checking us out too. Hey Ryan, the musician with the good stuff.
I'm reloading 3 tabs, so I don't know where you're looking.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. So the idea that there's an auto reload, and There's a lot like they have to do to keep up, but I'm doing it. I've been doing it since September, man. But so where was I going next? Oh wait, so you have a thing for Apple, you have a thing for Microsoft, a little bit more now, but people know that you tell everyone I'm an Apple guy, I'm a Mac guy, and then there are people that are Google guys and Android guys, but I think most people, they can say what they want, but I think everyone's everything, and they favor something. Maybe there are people that really never use an Apple product or never use, a PC product, it's hard to believe, but...
Right.
So what is it about Apple and now Microsoft? Like, is it just the innovation? They show, and then speaking of it too, they show this new Surface thing, which we're going to get into too, is that they showed, okay, that Microsoft introduced something, and then it didn't do well, and then Apple made the iPad, and then now Surface is coming out, and they're saying Surface copied Apple, but Apple really copied Microsoft. They all copy each other. I don't know. But anyway,
I'm glad these people don't get into car manufacturing, because can you imagine? What? They've got leather bucket seats? Those copycat. It would be the most ridiculous conversation.
That's crazy. Why would he? Why? That's my idea, John.
It's like, well, that happened in the early days of Google. They're like, oh, they copied. I'm like, how many creative ways can you actually have a place to post things in a comment field? Really, guys, just listen. Put a camera up and record the stuff that you're typing and read it back and go, all right, are you really saying that?
Do you think? I think a lot of people say it because of the emotion and the frustration, but they're not thinking, oh, what am I actually saying? That might be weird. That's doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and sometimes it's fun. It's fun to start a little, just throw a little bomb over there, and people, because you know how people are going to be.
The only thing I don't like is the people that throw the bombs, and they're like, oh, what did I do? I just asked a question. Oh. Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing.
That's the easiest way to try and avoid blame. But, I've been mostly a Mac person. I'm on a PC now. I've actually brought this is a workshop laptop. It's an old Sony Vaio from 7 years old. This is my Ubuntu machine for the shop. And then, my big heavy lifter is the Mac. It's just,
But you have PCs in the house, right?
I'm on one right now. I'm on a brand new i7.
Do you enjoy it? So it's not necessarily you don't enjoy PC products, right?
Again, enjoyment is one thing. Ability to use is another. I enjoy the things I do on computers, right? Some of the computers I use just irritate me a little bit more than others. I choose to do all my gaming on the PC. Yes, there are some games that I play on the PC. I choose to play Warcraft on the PC, not on the Mac, because I really don't want that much distraction on my Mac, truthfully. I like the way that it's built. In fact, a lot of the negatives people say about, oh, it's a walled garden, I kind of, I like it. I also like having the freedom to do whatever I want, get whatever software that I want, and it's not even a thing. Again, it makes me, I think, more productive as a human. I also think that it helps in business being qualified to talk about it, because at least using the things, there's some informed opinion. You might disagree with the opinion, but, hey, some things work better. Some Java works better on the PC than it does on the Mac. I can't change that. I think Flash in some capacity does too. I don't know. But it's not the essence of my day. Yeah. I just like the way I like other hardware too. I just wish I could, and I'm not that motivated to make a Hackintosh machine. Put the Mac OS on it.
Right.
We can't even really argue Mac OS with anything else, because Apple, again, I'm one of those, you got to build something that's unified. That's why I'm kind of intrigued by the Surface, because Microsoft decided to step up and say, we're making a product.
Right.
Here it is. It's got our logo on it at the end.
They're bringing the Surface. And also, Daniel Loggins just threw in the Elite Motion. Speaking of the no keyboard, no mouse. I don't know if you know about that. He threw that in there. I guess it's something, EliteMotion.com. Supposedly, you can interact with your computer without the mouse or keyboard, or I don't know. I don't really know much about it, but he asked about it. Anyway, but yeah, the Surface. So you have what? You have all these things come out. You have these tablets, right? So you have. I don't know what Microsoft did try to. What was the name of the first thing that people said Microsoft came out with that nobody cared about way back when, or a couple of years ago? I don't know. Was there something? I don't know.
Well, the Surface originally was this big tabletop device. This was pre-iPad days, and it was amazing. Like, wow,
That's right.
Oh, we're going to put it in retail stores. Okay, well, fine. And then it just becomes a retail fixture. And then I guess they co-opted the name and then changed the original Surface to Pixel Sense, whatever. And, they're stepping up and saying we're going to make a tablet.
Yeah, but so you have the iPad 3 now, the Kindle Fire.
iPad, 50 bajillion Android tablets.
Samsung Galaxy, Kindle Fire. Kindle Fire is below, but still a tablet. So now with the Surface, I mean, I saw the demonstration. The guy had some issues, but I mean, what makes the Surface? Is it just going to be cheaper? Like, what is it? It's not great. Do you need anything better?
Don't know. All we know is that there will be 2 versions with horrible names. One will be more tablet-y, one will be more laptop-y.
Okay.
One will have, the full normal processor, the Windows 8 Pro one, and then the RT is I think that's all ARM-based processors. And Microsoft will make like a custom Office just for that. They could almost sell that as, this is the Office tablet. The end. And there it is. And
well, you don't think that they want Surface they hope people are going to use Surface with, what's that called? Smart Glass, right?
Well, yeah, but that will be a Windows 8 thing, make everything sync up. The Xbox is number 1 as far as consoles go. It never used to be. It was only number 1 in the U.S. and it dominated worldwide. Every time I log on to the Xbox, and this is anecdotal, but everyone's playing Netflix and Hulu. It's like, does anybody game anymore?
Right.
The only time I see people game is when a new game comes out, but most of the time, things full on.
And so it's interesting though. I have a gold membership waiting for me because mine ran out, and I have one. I haven't redid it, and I'm gonna go do it hopefully in the next month. I keep stalling, but is it really? You can actually all your friends. It actually says so and so is watching Netflix, and
yeah,
it
displays
what movie they're watching too.
Mm-hmm. Some games will even tell you how bad you suck. Be like, Eric is now attempting the Battle of the Citadel, 7th try, and you're like, oh. Right? You're like,
can't you get it right, Mr. Right?
I'm such
but will it actually say what the actual movie, or just that they're using Netflix?
I'm not sure. I think you can set it up to be like that, or some do it. I mean, there's so many different things. But I think I like that they embrace other things. Again, these are those little things that Microsoft's doing that's like, okay, someone's using their brain. I do use Bing. I'm not necessarily happy with their data index, but when I get to see that I can compare all 3 weather things right there on one screen, when I get to see that, I'm at the music page and I'm listening to music, and then they say, buy the track. Oh, where do I buy it? Then they give me the choice to go to iTunes, Amazon, or Zune Store, or which will soon be Xbox Music. That's a hell of a lot more open than other places, and I got to give some credit where credit is due there. That's open. But also, drill down and go, it's open to walled gardens, but for Microsoft to do that kind of thing, the one thing that always stood out in my mind was from Jason Calacanis, entrepreneur, a guy who created Weblogs Inc., sold it to AOL, we were always amazed. He said, if I had said years ago that Apple would have no bloggers and Microsoft would have a couple thousand publicly saying whatever they wanted to, you'd think I was high. And this was, probably about 7 years ago. And it turns out, yes, Microsoft has this weird level of openness, and Apple, of course, does not. And we would never think that's how it would have ended up, but it is. And so I don't think it's not, I think that it's in Microsoft's DNA to work well with others. They just have to get burned a lot to realize. If you can capture my heart and mind a little bit and still let me be a Mac user and an iOS user, we're probably going to have some nice conversations, So I have to pay attention to it, and it's going to suck at first because things do.
Yeah.
And
it seems like Facebook, Google Plus, and Google and Microsoft have been super busy over this past year. That all 3 of them have really just jumped, and there's so much. It's like it's cool, but it's also like, oh man, another thing that I have to keep up with. There's another, and then you're like, it seems like so much. And Amazon got another Kindle Fire, but I don't know. It's like what Microsoft's doing. I get what they're trying to do, but let's face it, most people, and maybe Internet Explorer is still used by a lot of people. But what's up? Oh,
right.
You gotta have a conversation. All right, no problem.
Do a station ID real quick.
This is Hangout Conversations with Matt Rappaport. Eric Rice, my guest. He probably wants to eventually have dinner and leave, and I have a billion questions, and you have a billion questions because he's Eric Rice, and he can give us the verdict. What's the verdict, Eric Rice?
Now we're good.
It's good. Okay. The doors.
You're on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast, so we're at weird hours. So.
Okay. As long as that door slam was not on negative. Okay.
Oh no, it was good.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, but so, I mean, you look at Microsoft. They got the big social, and they got Sokal, you call it, or so.cl, and they got all they're doing with Xbox, da da da. And then you got Google Plus and Google, what they're doing with all the new features and Hangouts on Air. And then you have Facebook coming out with I don't know what they've come out what they come out with, like, oh, now Facebook is telling me I should star people to get notifications from everyone I star, which seems a little like, that's kind of like if everyone on UCircle and Google Plus you say you got notifications for every post, and I would like that for Hangouts on Air and subscriptions, but
I mean, that's just basically making a top 8, like on MySpace, that gets pushed to you.
But you can add anybody in there. You can add hundreds of people.
Well, right. You know, I added a friend of mine that just recently got diagnosed with a type of blood cancer.
Ooh.
He's not somebody I would have starred because, yeah, his daily life is interesting but not that interesting. But now that he's at the doctor every day and dealing with chemotherapy, I want to know about it. And then I want to know my wife's post and, you know, a couple other key people. And that's it. It's really light. Total control. And those are the only notifications that come through on my phone. So it does. I mean, as long as you're not crazy about it. Or you have really wordy people, it's fine. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, the usage evolves, I think, over time.
Yeah, but it does feel like it's too much. It could be too much for people because people aren't even using it crazy. The mainstream isn't using it like crazy. So does it feel like it's going to be too much for most people, or they're going to get turned off? Yeah, or just that's what it is.
Or bored? I don't know. You know, I'm sure every network, it's like school's out, right? Last day of school today for my kids, and it's like, you know, what are they going to be doing that's different than what they were doing all winter, right? So,
that's
you
true.
know, they have to deal with seasonal adjustments as well.
Let's jump to a G4. This is a this or that type thing. There's no correct answer. Which one you like better? Which one you prefer? Sometimes it's Sophie's choice. Your iPad or your Xbox and Kinect?
God, talk about apples to oranges, right?
Is that tough to choose between the two? I mean, which one do you use more?
Well, probably the iPad.
Okay. So that's the answer. There we go. That's good. Cars or computers? That's tough, too. It's like, probably cars.
I'm probably going to go with cars because, I mean, I got a computer that I can just throw in my car can have a computer. My computer can't have a car.
That's true. And this is one I threw random, maybe. MySpace, does it have new life, or it's going to stay kind of dead?
It's cleaned up.
Okay.
It's cleaned up a lot, but, I mean, I don't use it. So it was MySpace or what?
No, I was going to say, no, it wasn't. It was just, it was either, no. Does it have new life, or is it going to be the ghost town? Or stay down.
Well, Justin Timberlake took it over. I mean, I think that's just straight up a music play, but you know, who knows? That's one of the things that people say is dead, but dead is in parentheses.
Right. And this one's probably tough. Cyberpunk or graffiti?
Well, cyberpunk has its own type of graffiti, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Cyberpunk.
That is the correct answer, and we do have a YouTube question. Let me go right into that. They wanted you to talk a little bit about artificial and synthetic intelligence. Alex Waits did. If you want to get, because you had it on your profile, maybe just talk a little bit about your interest, maybe in that area.
Well, God, that's kind of a huge thing because you know, some time ago, I stumbled into different hobbies that found my brain in a completely different realm. A lot of it came from virtual worlds and gaming and the creation of these virtual worlds. And as a result of paying attention to that and doing world building, or geofiction as the hobby is called, I found myself paying a lot of attention to all of these very current industries. But I was looking at things from a creative perspective. So, you know, I never really liked the label futurist, but it's like, from a creative perspective, fine. How do you design a fictional city to make it plausible, where you're looking at prototype stuff that's emerging right now? So because I'm paying attention to the technologies and the flow of a city, that's getting me to pay attention to various things like new urbanism and smart growth and of course architecture. I'm just an architectural nerd, but also things like how does a city get created, right?
Yeah.
And is a city a system unto itself? And then it was like it started making me pay more attention to cybernetic systems. It was like super design. Cybernetics being something that's very generic, like design is very generic. I could say I'm a designer, but you don't really know what that means until I say, well, I'm a landscape designer or a graphic designer or
that
fashion designer.
sounds like photographers on Google Plus. There's all these varieties.
Cybernetics is the same way. And with that, you do start paying attention to all of these other peripheral systems. And I am much more interested in, and I think a lot of this actually was driven from fiction. I think a lot comes from fiction, where you start really paying attention and obsessing about potential technologies, things like, and synthetic intelligence is actually a term that's a little more preferred, because it's not that the intelligence is artificial, it's synthetic. And how, we want AI, but is AI going to be capable of interacting with our worlds, with our cities, with our data, and huge privacy ramifications of, well, if I have, I like to use the AI from Halo as an example, Cortana. In order for her to do her thing and interact with the world, she needs to know everything, and that is a tremendous point of failure. So, we go this far away, distant, place as a result of fiction and start walking it back to go, okay, let's talk about the reality and what we have now. Who's going to be the first ones to figure out how to make an intelligent agent that's got, this giant repository of knowledge? Google's got all the knowledge, great, but do they understand that fuzzy thing of interactions between humans like Facebook potentially does? And I think deep down, I think there's a little bit of that in why I don't completely give up on Facebook, because aside from it being bad business sense, it's like they know a lot more about human interaction. There is a lot of reality there. So it's kind of lumped all into this, all right, I'm going to pay attention to something that happened kind of on accident. Mm-hmm. And it's, did the artificial intelligence class online at Stanford just to have that thing. But I mean, as a designer, I'm not a specialist, I'm a generalist. And I think I kind of have to be, because there's just so many different things involved. I never thought I'd be paying attention to, urban planning things at all. Mm-hmm. But that was the
so were you into the video, like The Sims and the building of the cities and roller coasters and all that stuff?
It actually happened with, I had played The Sims and things like that, but it actually had happened with Second Life. So again, putting yourself in a nice hostile environment where it's like, Second Life, oh my God, that's just a bunch of flying penises and furries dancing on slot machines. Yes. Right. But when you get down to it, what's being done inside of a virtual place.
And people still use Second Life. Do you still use it?
They're getting ready. On and off, I visit. I don't develop anymore. But they're turning 9 years old. But what ended up happening is that when you start building a place for people to have fun in, all this emergent behavior happened. It's like if you're playing Grand Theft Auto in free play mode, people invent their own games, right? Emergent behavior of a user. You can't control what a user does. You can try. And I think this actually does totally connect with things, challenges that Google has with trying to do social stuff, is the users want to do something. And like Twitter, pay attention, there was no there was no retweet, there was none of that. The users made it happen because they just said, this is how we're going to do it. And when you try to control
culture,
they revolt, right? Culture and the culture of use.
Yeah.
And so, it just turns into this crazy rabbit hole where I was working on a type of geofiction where I split the intellectual property in half, where I would work on canon that would help people develop it. And this project's very ongoing and very complicated from an entertainment perspective. But I have to pay attention to all these things, like how are people behaving in cities? And then that starts opening up all these doors of what happens if you were to interchange all of the human components of a city. How much is a city made up of its people? Like, what if you took the population of Portland and New York and swapped them? New York City and Portland, and just took the people and just swapped their places.
That would be crazy, yeah.
There'd be a lot of birds on all of the buildings, right?
There'd be a lot.
I don't know. And so it's kind of going through these unexplored things. So it's nothing that I actively want to do, I pay attention to it. I think it does help in areas like business consulting because it, again, forces me to think in ways that I never thought of, and it allows me to trust myself to be surprised. And I also like not knowing something. Not like I don't know how to program in this particular language. A lot of people do.
You like learning new stuff.
But you're kind of out there alone in some cases, and people are so head down, there's not a lot to talk about. It's even playing with the Neuro headset. I think you might be able to see
I've seen it.
There's a Neuro headset where you adjust your brain waves to control a machine, a computer. It's far more fun for me to pay attention to that from an entertainment perspective, where the real geniuses worry about, let's see how we can do with quadriplegics, people who need to control synthetic limbs and things like that. And then I think wrapping all of this is once systems get really, really smart, how does the intelligence play into it? So, yeah, there's not, again, this is one of those.
So is there something, Google Glasses I mentioned a little bit, that's kind of in that area, and I know someone was talking about like Lou Gehrig's disease where you lose body movement. So do you think that somebody that was wearing Google Glasses that had this disease that couldn't really move, that they'd be able to use it?
Well, you've got a display mechanism.
Yeah.
You have an input-output mechanism. We have lots of input mechanisms, whether it's gestural, whether it's touch. Glasses of that nature are a display. We need a lot of work in the display space because the augmented, I just posted today, even people like Maybelline are getting into, you can see what nail polish looks like on your fingers just by holding it in front of a camera.
Yeah.
It's a major step if they're able to get things like battery life. And
I start to think Back to the Future 2. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, it's not a gimmicky thing that, it's just an extension of your phone. That's great. It's like Google Wallet was like, one phone? We can't develop stuff like that, You got to look at guys that are ripping apart things like Roombas and Wiimotes and Kinects and wrapping them all up in a bundle and seeing what happens. Because a lot of that, where it's like we just sent a little robotic vacuum cleaner drone to trace the 3D interior of a room. So a lot of the Google Glass thing is not terribly new, but there is potential with some of those areas. It's just, interface designers need to worry about overlaid interfaces that overlay on top of life. There's automotive augmented reality where everybody from like age 5 to 55 has probably played a game that has a mini-map. We know how to pay attention to navigational aids out of our field of vision. As soon as you want to throw that on a windshield, get ready for Congress and other legislators to show up and say you can't do that. But we know how to do that. So there's so much that even tech can't solve, where it's all political. But yeah, so it's this just giant, ever-growing mound. It's this casserole of tech that's always changing. I like in theory, I just don't know how they kind of made it sound too much like a real product instead of something conceptual. They're all being very guarded and specific, and let's make it a little more photocentric right now because that will lessen the blow of a product that's promised to do X, but it really doesn't. Because a lot of the glasses that are out there on the market, they're not consumer products; they're specialty products. Vuzix has augmented reality goggles that you just wear like sunglasses, but
Something tells me, now I don't know how much input Sergey Brin had on Google+. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know, because I don't know if it was his baby, but it seems like he's really been focused on the glasses this past year, 2 year, whatever, because seems like every time we see him, his whole thing is the glasses, right? So I don't know if that means there's a lot of resources, there's a lot more involved with the glasses than we know about. I don't know.
It could be a pet project, but it certainly lends a lot of cred to it.
Yeah. So, I don't see. And to be fair, I really haven't seen Larry Page and Sergey really talk about Google Plus. Like, I think Larry just did a talk about it, but maybe Sergey. You've seen more Vic and Bradley talk about them, two of them, right? So.
Right. And that's their baby. They're going to do that.
Whereas like Zuckerberg he's the guy usually talking about Facebook when these things, right?
Right. He doesn't do. There's not a lot of lieutenants out there. Caldroon over on YouTube said that there are already HUD displays on cars. Yeah, and they're just not as persistent as I'd like them to be.
Okay.
I know we were talking about cars earlier. I have a Jeep and a four-wheel drive truck, but we also have a Prius, and I love that whole center console thing, where it's not right in front of you behind the steering wheel. It's up at the top of the dash and in the center of the car. And I like that. It's like, can we just get a couple of items there in the line of sight? I can handle it. But for everybody that can handle it, there's somebody that can't handle it. No, man, I got to sue. And
yeah, we just got a new car, and having that that module in the middle, you can connect to your Bluetooth cell phone. You could have Pandora, you could have XM Sirius,
They won't let you. You can mess around with the radio in a Prius, but you can't mess around with the GPS unless you are fully stopped. But you can totally rock the stereo and go through and program. You do all this stuff with the radio, but you can't touch navigation while you're driving. It's the most aggravating thing about that damn car.
Yeah, it's interesting how they do all that. I mean, but it can only get better. And there was I think it was a man that posted the Xbox car, which is probably just photoshopped, I'm hoping. But
oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I can't imagine treating it like a video game.
I mean, we're still struggling trying to get good alternative fuels and technologies going in cars without the cars looking silly, right? Yeah. Someday we'll have amazing things. I mean, we're getting there. We're getting cool little things like the CRZ and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I have. That's what we have. The Honda. Yeah.
Yeah, get the romance the aftermarket. They'll treat you right if they really like the car.
That's right. I'll go back. I know you can talk about cars all day. We're going to talk about it in the episode, but let's go way back to this internet community that you were part of, just Perillo, Robert Scoble, Lynette Young, the early days where you were all kind of getting to know each other and you were in a gang. Because I hear a lot of you talk about, oh yeah, we go way back, the old days and this and that. Maybe we see each other at conferences. So what was it like at the beginning when you were all meeting each other? And how is it different today? Are you guys all still kind of friendly, or is it just professional? What is that whole vibe?
Well, a lot of it came from proximity. The people that this is why people move to New York for media, they move to Hollywood for showbiz, right? And you move to Valley for tech. It might not be the most business wise decision. Let's make a startup in San Francisco and pay stupid amounts of money for our apartments, but you do it because everyone is there. And you just can't even go down the street and be, oh, hey, that's so-and-so,
I think I learned that stupid is one of your top 10 favorite words.
What? Yeah. Well, and so, it started with blogging, right? And then all the media making started, podcasting, huge community. The video bloggers, very tight community. Then you'd run into everybody at places like South by Southwest, the big, the interactive part of it, not the music conference, but the interactive portion. You've been on panels with people or things like that, and then over time, you
Now, would you say all these people, you talk about Skull, whatever, before Twitter, maybe even before Facebook, but maybe I don't know if it was. Because did Facebook launch them into kind of more people knowing who they are? It was Twitter, right?
I think it was mostly blogging.
Blogging?
I think because social's new still.
Okay.
I mean, when they show up there, they're bringing all of their stuff with them. I mean, it was blogging, and then it was podcasting. And it was, and then you have various people that are just such constants because they came from TV and then they did their media thing, like Perillo, for example. He's been a guest on your show. He did TV and he did his thing, and then he put on a conference for 10 years. And then at one of those conferences, Will Wheaton's there and podcasting blew up, and Adam Curry's doing keynotes, and then we're all podcasting in the hallways. Everyone's interviewing everybody else. Every technology brings with it a generation that is born. Then the video bloggers started in. Then somebody's got this startup and somebody's got this. And, you're all tight and you're all moving around. Economy was a little better then, so we could afford to fly around all over the place. And then it just kind of persists. And so you can see it when you see people rage on people who they don't know. And they're like, well, who is this guy? What does he know? A lot, actually. You've just never heard of him. And so the relevancy is at a different place on timeline. But then it makes it really easy for people to then go into social media. And, that happened to me with Second Life. I mean, I probably did more TV interviews and more speaking gigs about Second Life. And it wasn't that I necessarily did anything unique. I mean, I did a lot, but nothing that would be worthy of that much attention. It was because of everything that came before. Years of blogging, a startup, doing podcasting, doing all this other stuff, so that you just show up and then, boom. That's why certain people show up and they can easily gained so many followers because they're just known, combined with the mechanics of a place like, Google Plus, whatever. So, yeah, and occasionally everyone is so busy, it's not like, oh yeah, let's all drink.
Right, right. And no one ever does that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, and then everyone's also scattered around.
And also, I mean, I don't know what the family, maybe you guys were all married with kids 10, 20 years ago, but probably, maybe not. And so maybe now you guys have families and kids and more responsibilities, and so things change,
Yeah, yeah.
Simple
And actually,
fact.
somebody who had commented is somebody who does a podcast on here, Craig Stepp he does a podcast called Technorama. And yeah, the Podcast Expo was in Ontario, and then Podcast Expo became the New Media Expo, and then Blog World, I think, sort of supplanted that, and then everyone goes out to Blog World, and then bar camps and pod camps, and each of these generations, of course, were not without their own share of drama as well. There's always going to be drama.
There's always drama, yeah. It's always interesting. There's different facets on Google Plus. There's people there are people interested in everything, people interested in a little bit here. Some people are here, they want to meet new people and socialize with new people, and that's really what it's about. And some people it's about content, and some people it's about all of it. So just different folks, different strokes for different folks.
And I think the old timers have a certain responsibility to try and remember that, and it's sometimes hard, where people are new, they don't have the context that everybody else has. To me, it's very easy to see the pattern that exists with the rabid diehard G+ers, because I've lived through this like 3 times already. Nothing is different. Nothing's changed. It's all the same. The Twitter people, oh my God, 2007, it blew up at South by Southwest. We had stupid names for meetups. We had stupid names for users. We had tweeples and tweet hearts. We had
stupid. Back
webinars. We had, what was it?
You still do, bro. It's still like
tweet ups.
Right.
I mean, remember, even when the iPhone came out, everyone I'm like, never take my picture with an iPhone, and I'm never posing with it, because I just didn't want to be that guy. That guy is apparently a large portion of population. People are like, look, here's me with my iPhone. Right when the iPhone hit, people were crazy. You couldn't even whip the thing out in public without people getting all up in
Whoa, whip the thing out of public.
Yeah, oh yeah, hey, put that away. But so the same thing. So when the Hurls and geniuses and all that, I'm like, oh, I've heard this before. And it does kind of make outsiders roll their eyes, like, really, guys, you're calling it that? Eventually it wears off.
Right, but it's also nice. I mean, you could just say,
but
okay, we're gonna
really, any word people could put the TW prefix on, oh my God.
What?
Webinar, I think, was
pretty
horrendous.
About? Anyway, back to Google. A couple last questions about the G+. Ads on G+, they're coming. Not really. Keep it clean. They don't need to.
They'll find a way to get the data and advertise against it. So.
Okay. Well, let's do a quick Flipboard. Flipboard API, is that Bradley talked about, that's coming out, is that for Google+? Is that like a temporary Google+ iPad app, or is it just something cool? So Bradley said to Loic today that Flipboard is going to have, you're going to be able to use Google+ on your Flipboard, and so is that like, instead of them making an iPad app, is that what's instead of, or it's in addition to, and the iPad app just doesn't come out? What do you think?
I think they want to test the API thing out. I don't know if this was said or if this was perceived, but they want to test out the API with trusted vendors. Right. Flipboard is very popular, and it pulls in RSS feeds and Facebook and Twitter. I don't know if you're able to share to Google Plus from Flipboard, but it's probably reputable enough that they can experiment and do some stuff, because they know a lot of people use Flipboard, and a lot of early adopters use Flipboard. So it makes sense, even though it's still frustrating that it takes so freaking long, but it's a thing, right? So it's a baby step.
And what you're saying makes total sense. So for everyone that works at Google, that's a Googler, that's in the Silicon Valley, like, things take a long time, they take money, but for someone that's using the website on a daily basis, and they're into it, and they're using it, and they see the user experience, and they see this isn't here, that isn't here, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's frustrating, and you're like, like, you want to snap your fingers and have it be there, but I guess there's so many different, like, processes to go through before you get it out.
I mean, I I like the quality of the Flipboard app. I don't really use it. I have it installed. It's something that it comes up. I'm stuck. You know, I'm in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, fiddle around with Flipboard. All right, it's like, it's just not part of my workflow. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
It's just not my style, but it's probably a good enough place to start. You know, so I don't fault them for that. Could it be an acquisition play? Don't know.
Maybe. Yes, but why would they want people to use Flipboard? They want people to use Google Plus. I don't know. Just together.
Well, right, but a Flipboard. But you know, why no love for Currents?
Right. Google Currents almost doesn't exist, does it? I put all my stuff on there, and like no one knows about it. Maybe it's not doing well, right?
Yeah, not everything's going to be a hit.
Wave, buzz. Yeah.
Oh, right. You know. So.
Okay. What about spam? Spam, let's go. I just keep moving because you've been here a long time. I know. So how are they doing a good job of dealing with spam? Do you like what they're doing on Google Plus, or do you think that it's out of control? Or
I mean, it depends. I'm lucky. I haven't really seen a lot, but as people I know, get spam all the time. I sometimes get spam on really old posts, especially Warcraft posts. You know, post about Viagra, boom.
It's always got to be the blue pill. Take the red pill.
You know, so I suppose they can figure it out. They've been able to do it well with Gmail, but again, this is a user thing, not there's a little bit more of a user, and then they got to ban the user, and there's a lot more overhead in an account that's spamming you. And plus, who's to say that a user is just not spammy in their behavior? You know, friend spam.
It's true.
You know.
And so it's interesting. Nikki Muna, I just bring this up, and a couple of people had this issue, but her account was banned for 3 days because she posted, I think, one picture with a girl that had breasts, and it was National Movie Day or whatever it was. Something that was a good cause, I don't know, but I guess enough people reported her and flagged her, and she got banned for 3 days, and now she's back. But that's pretty interesting that exists. I mean,
if it's complaint-driven, that's a new form of trolling, too.
Yeah, well, Amanda Blaine, back in August, she got back last year. She got suspended, and it's because I guess either people reported her, or she was in a fight with Redditors, and so we had to get people to unlock her account way back when. So it was interesting, you know, to see how the process works. You know what? Yeah. And then shouldn't certain people be whitelisted, or you can never be whitelisted from that? It's too much power. I don't know.
Well, it makes it a lot more isolated. It starts putting us back into the Facebook model of things, where you've got to put so much control out there. You know, I don't necessarily, very rarely do I get spam on a place like Facebook. And when I do, it's obnoxious, fundamental spam. Like we're in an election year, right? The closer we get to November, people will be a lot spammier with their share this to get this trending thing for Obama or Romney or whoever, Ron Paul, right? I think everybody can fairly say that you see it a lot with Ron Paul people. They're not being spammers in the traditional sense, but they're mighty passionate about the topic. And then you're like, all right, noise, you know, and you're trying to mitigate it. Even if you like it, it's like, God, calm down, you know.
God, stupid, idiot. Cliff Rob, I said his name. Hey, Cliff. Bronwyn McDuckin is watching live. If you're watching on YouTube, and hey, how are you doing? Frank Ruffy Jr., a bunch of people watching us still, and Sarah Grace. I want to move on to Conversations Plus because I know your time is limited. And
I just need to eat real quick, but save me a spot in Conversations Plus.
We'll do that. All right, so let me then, and then you'll join us. Yeah, and I need to eat too. I got food waiting for me too, and I'll. It's like what? I was going to talk. You mean Slackshot Entertainment, Resident Cybernetics, Robot Underpants. Is there anything that you want to address about those three things in your life that the people?
Just really, you know, I've been having fun. Robot Underpants. My bud Langley did the show for a while. It was actually his show, and he was looking for a co-host. And then Michael Gaines, he actually does a ton of shows. He does This Week in Trek, does
cool.
a show called The Nexicon, does World of Warcast, does the Infinite Loop show. I think I got them all. Sith Heads also. You know, so this guy's we've known each other for a long time. I think we all technically met on Seismic years and years ago.
And then you added Casey to the mix?
We add a random girl, right? And it's either Casey or Annika. And it's not tech, it's not news, it's just BSing, right? I've always drawn inspiration from those morning zoos kind of things, because you know what, you can relax. You don't have to be like, okay, and the news, we got to cover that big announcement yesterday. No, I don't want to cover the big announcement.
Yeah, it's like you can be like, hey, there's a dick for on your shoulder. What's a dick for? Oh!
There's enough people talking about news and tech stuff.
It gets boring, yeah.
Sometimes it's more fun just to kick back and just talk about the nonsensical stuff, and talk about nonsensical stuff that not everybody's even talking about.
Yeah, talk about how a lot of people were disappointed with Prometheus, even though I didn't see it. So.
Yeah, and work on our horrible Christopher Walken impressions, right?
Wow! Wow!
I don't have that much thirst for I must be all intellectual all the time. No, it's just, it's just trying to balance when you see the one funny post, and then it keeps coming, and it never ends, and there's no way to block a content type. So
a couple of things that I remember just from my own experience with you. I know that you were kind of a little annoyed about like Google saying that if you don't understand Google Plus, it's your fault versus them educating and making it easier on people. Do you want to talk a little bit about that at all?
I mean, we heard that from people who work there. We heard it then, of course, by the fans. That's not exactly the best message to send when you're trying to rise up and you are competing with so many companies at the same time. You're trying to compete with Apple, you're trying to compete with Facebook, you're trying to compete with Microsoft. Stop blaming users. Help them, or maybe you could be doing it wrong too, right? The customer's always right. Maybe not right this second, but at some point it is a lot of freaking work at times. I'm like, oh my God, the circle model kind of falls apart for some people.
And you too, and everyone does their circles differently. When I got here, I was like, all right, circle some people I know, and then let me just, a bunch of people seem to be following me and interacting, let me circle people interact, because I wanted content, I wanted to see what I would get, and I was just like, circle, 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 and then I slowly, as I went by, I got rid of and added, and I know you specifically have different methods, and some people
I actually circle people based on people and circles based on interest, and they just end up being a label for me. It's like my automotive circle and interest circle. It's only 35 people. One guy posts about cars.
Right. You just know who it's like. That's the industry. You know that circle. You might not get the content that you're looking for, but you know that if you have a car post, you share it to that circle, and they might appreciate it.
Right. So but then I've heard people say, well, it's good for incoming, but it's not good for outgoing. Well, okay. So and at this point, you're like, shouldn't take this much effort to kind of, you don't actually have, tech should make our life, software should make our life a little easier. It should not be more work than what we have to do.
And I'm really surprised. I know that Google bought this, started with a K to a company to help their circles, but I'm really surprised that even after 11 months, even the back office for the circles, the suggestions are, and like what the sorting, and there's so much that could make our lives easier, and it does, when you sit there and go in your circles, it does feel like work. I mean, there's a lot of, and I really didn't get into developers and extensions, and there's like Mohammed Mansour made a lot of good stuff that really I was using religiously. He made something where you can hover over someone, and then you can actually, I have a lot of circles, I could type like one letter, and then the circle comes up instead of having to scroll through the whole list of circles to find the one I want to add them to. So that was helpful, like some little stuff like that. And then get the My Hangouts, the Hangout Canopy, Robert Pitt, and just different things like that just help people get what they want to make it easier, to make the whole experience a little bit better. But I can't think.
But I think at some point that can make us lazy, because now it's just like, screw it, just throw everyone in following. Oh, who am I going to? Because sometimes you'll share to a circle, and you're like, I really didn't want to share it to a circle because this was private per se. I was trying to be targeted, but now you can't reshare that to the public because you think this is actually good for the whole world to know. So then you got to go out, find the post, post it, and you got to remember to do attribution. And then at what point do you just finally throw up your hands and you're like, whatever, it's public. I don't care. Hey, it's only going to benefit me, right? People can now go to my wall and see very little stuff is shared privately. I mean, it might be like a direct, hey, here's that thing.
Direct message,
I don't share. Look at my profile and see what I post, because it's pretty consistent. So. Yeah,
and you talked a little bit about this before. Like, you can get because we've been on Facebook longer, most of us, but if you're friends with Facebook, someone on Facebook, you might even get a little bit more of their life because they have a lot more personal photos maybe, or a lot more, they've been using it longer.
Just the likes alone, and even if your likes have changed, at least those likes might give me a clue into your worldview. Yeah. If I go and I friend you on Facebook, there's a place where you can put likes. There's not really a mechanism to do that here. But if I can see that you've liked Family Guy, and you've liked NoFX, and you like World of Warcraft, and you like Obama or Romney or whoever, I probably can put together a little thing about you and go, I think this is somebody I might like talking to, right? You know, there's a little bit more to it. And then I could go through your photos if I wanted to.
But in the fair sense, though, I mean, it's the idea that we met each other in Google Plus, and then we went other places with each other on Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest. And
I think it's a lot harder to learn about the people that you have discovered here than it was on Facebook. I could probably go to, say, George Takei's stream where he was talking about the whole Google Plus thing and just pick people at random and then just look through their profile and see for those that have put the stuff public, and I'll probably get a good idea of who's probably worthy to follow.
Although I do notice there are a lot of people that are very proud on Facebook that everything is locked up, like on Facebook.
Yeah.
So.
Which, that's not something that's outside of the realm of a reasonable thing to want to do for protection, or maybe you don't want to broadcast everything. Lots of operating on exclusion over there to post stuff. So, there's that.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough. I think I'm taking you to the gamut. I mean, we could talk a little bit on air. I know that on air is finally out, and for a long time you wanted the on air, and then you were like, let's,
Most of it, because it was so random, I really wanted to see something coherent for all the people that, I can go and do whatever I want wherever. It's just there are so many people that don't have the luxurious and rich history of being everywhere and being at ground zero in tech to be able, just call somebody, right? It's just not cool. The playing field is not a level playing field. And I think that we, as veterans, if you will, have a responsibility to speak up for those that can't get a word in edgewise, either because everyone is so freaking loud all the time, or they got 200 followers just because they're just nobodies, right? And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just like they're mechanically nobodies. So that's really who the fight was for. I made a lot of noise about that. I still make a lot of noise about things like moderation controls and Hangouts, whatever. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But really, there is a lot of a need. I mean, I don't think I've actually used on air personally because it's just not a huge priority for me at the moment. But it certainly is a priority for the people that are trying to do really amazing and innovative stuff, and they just don't have the weight that people who've been around a lot longer have.
Well, I totally listen. I was always about helping people and supporting people, and I did on airs with other people that wanted to do on airs, and I joined stuff, and what does the word community mean, and is it people talk about it, people say, I do things for this community, I am telling everyone about this community, but how far does that go? Your actions, I think, speak louder than your words, and I think, actually, okay, this guy is a spokesperson for Google Plus, or this girl, but guess what? What are they doing? Are they out there, and are they really interacting about everything that's going on, or are they focused on one thing? Are they focused on their life or what they're doing, and they want everyone part of that? I am a filmmaker. I do lots of things. I'm grateful and awesome to have everyone watching, and it's great. But at the end of the day, and we all want to get ahead to a certain degree, but I think it's helping each other and supporting each other in a genuine way. And I mean, I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about that. I mean, do you have any opinion about that, community and what you've seen, and who's talking, who's doing, who's both? I don't know.
Your immediate neighborhood. Look at it just like real estate, right? Your immediate neighborhood is part of maybe a city, and maybe there's a community. I live in a rural community, but I'm outside of Portland, which is a very distinct community. And this fits into a much larger community called a society. And things are different when society happens. I mean, a community's fine, but when it starts getting bigger, Right. And you see it with phases with everything's used as innovative first, right? Twitter was great, and it was self-managed and policed, and everybody was all very stand-up citizens and everything. Then you had the second group of people come in, and maybe they're not as brilliant as the early adopters, whatever, but everyone's nice enough, right? They smell clean, so you're cool with it. And then you start getting the opportunists showing up, the people that want to start spamming, right? Then you get the trolley types that start showing up. They're like, oh, I could have fun with this. Then you get the mass public coming in, and then it's just, now it's different. And then early people feel like they've been invaded. Even on Facebook, right? Remember, Facebook was just for college.
College, yeah.
You had to have an EDU. When we showed up, they were like, ew. You know, and then at some point, it's not like Facebook ran TV ads. People just went there and did stuff, and there were things there that people wanted to do. You know, same thing. Twitter, very tech-heavy in the beginning, and then it eventually shifted into mainstream. Now, hugely embraced by a lot of entertainment outlets, you know, radio in particular as well. So it does change over time. That just happens with critical mass. You can't keep it small and indie.
Right, and I'm not talking about the size of it. I mean, when I say community, I didn't necessarily mean that it's like trying to say piece. I meant like community as in the entire Google Plus community, ensure that there are groups and this and clicks and people doing different stuff. But you know, it's like,
I think 100 million pretty much puts it at society. You know, you could probably click it on any trending topic and just see a whole different breed of people different from you.
There, yeah, and are we like how many different communities and clicks and other things, whatever word you want to use, that we don't see on a regular basis, and they're not making a lot of noise. They're passive, or they're quieter, and maybe there must be a lot of them out there, but we'll see as time goes by and all that stuff. But Eric Rice, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully we'll hook up some point next week in New York.
Yeah, Eric Rice will be in New York, and I plan
out there causing havoc.
We'll have some drinks. Maybe it's too bad we can't do a mobile on air, or we would, but we can do Hangout, regular Hangout. Oh, if you have a laptop and all that stuff. Cool.
Oh, of course.
And if you join us for, I'm going to grab dinner, you'll grab dinner, maybe 5-10 minutes we'll do Conversations Plus, or you jump in for whenever you want. And
I'll jump in and go AFK.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks to everyone for watching. I hope it was enthralling. I hope that you are inspired to do something great, dye your hair blue or purple. Or Eric, if you're going to go another color, is there one you had in mind? Or
I mean, I'd probably do blue again. I don't know. I was bored.
Again, no green, or that's too Irish, or
yeah, I'm not. Green doesn't look good on my skin tone.
No green for you.
I'm an artist, damn it. I know skin tones.
I'm an artiste. You cannot shoot me down. Eric Rice, you've been awesome. Robot Underpants is on tonight at 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern. For all those late nighters, cool. And where can they Robot Underpants? Has a Google Plus page? Does it have a website?
Well, robotunderpants.com, and technically it's an audio podcast. We just do Hangouts on air just because it's fun to have it transcoded to YouTube. Really, it's not about necessarily Hangouts as much as it's multi-person YouTube live. Yeah,
that's cool.
But that's not the main thing that we do. So
yeah, and that's another interesting topic just to talk about.
Langley and Starman.
Langley, Starman, and either Casey or Annika or both. And that's also another interesting difference between a YouTube live show and a Hangout on air show, and how they're both same platforms kind of, but different. Anyway, we'll get into that after the after show. Eric Rice, you are a scholar. All right, join us next week. Thanks for watching. We have musicians coming up. Lots of music's coming up. Singer Lizzie Spitt from England will be here on the next week, the 28th. I'm gonna take a field trip, second field trip show to go see a band, the Whiskey Violets, and they're gonna play live. I'll be in here after that, in July 5th, after the holidays. Both of them will be at the New York City Herald 2 concert, Live Plus 2. So that's in August, second week of August. Matt Gibson, a lot more people will be here. Check hangoutconversations.com for all that stuff. And youtube.com/Hangout Conversations for all the videos and fun stuff for your Rappaport needs, and my profile, which Eric loves so much. Thanks all for watching live on YouTube or Google Plus or hangoutconversations.com. It's streamed over there, all over the net. Nice to have you here in a hot Bali. It was like 100 degrees here in New York today. No joke. Or maybe you're watching it, it's Christmas and you want to be warm. I don't know. But thanks for stumbling upon our show, and hope we made you feel toasty for a couple hours. Have a good night. Peace and all that good stuff. Go plus one a cat pick for me, and go plus what Eric, what should they reshare? What kind of post would you like to be? A car post? I don't know.
Sure, I don't know.
All right, a car post where you could play like Xbox.
Or a dog, big muscular dog.
A big muscular dog. That is a show. Big muscular dog for the win. Rappaport out. I just did that, yeah.
I'm here on Hangout Conversations, but I've got to go. Oh, no.